मान्य सदस्य दीपक राज बोहरा एकैछिन पर्खनुहोस्। मान्य सदस्य खुसबु ओली के विषयमा नियमावलीको नियम कति? उहाँलाई माइक दिनुहोस्, 1 मिनेटमा आफ्नो कुरा राख्नुहोस्।
सम्मानीय सभामुख महोदय, जनावरहरूको जीवन रक्षाको लागि एकदमै सक्रिय रहने माननीय जीवहरू हामीले यहाँ देखेका छौँ। त्यो महत्त्वपूर्ण कुरा पनि हो। तर आज अहिले भर्खरै माननीय ज्यूले बाँदरको विषयमा कुरा राख्दै गर्दा यसलाई धपाउने यन्त्र छैन भनेर भन्दै गर्दा यो सदनले त्यो कुरामा हाँसेर किसानको पीडा, किसानको समस्या र मर्न आँटेको किसानहरूको संवेदनशीलतातर्फ हाँसेको देख्दाखेरि म सम्पूर्ण माननीय ज्यूहरूको व्यवहारमा आपत्ति जनाउन चाहन्छु। किसानको हक अधिकार मैले जसले हाँसेर आज अभिव्यक्ति दिइराख्नु भएको छ, यो अत्यन्तै संवेदनशील समस्या हो। आज हामीले बाँदर जनावरहरूको हक अधिकार रक्षाको लडाइँ गर्दै गर्दा त्यो समस्याले किसानहरूलाई मर्न बाध्य बनाइराखेको छ र त्यसको प्रत्यक्षदर्शी हामी छौँ। हामी नै आफ्नो घरबार छोडेर हिँड्नुपर्ने अवस्था काठमाडौँमा भइसक्यो। काठमाडौँ बाहिर गाउँका समस्याको त कुरै नगर्नुहोस्। जुन कृषिमा आधारित यो देशको मेरुदण्ड अर्थतन्त्र भनिन्छ, त्यो किसानको समस्यामा यो सदनमा हाँसो उठ्नु भन्ने कुरा चाहिँ अत्यन्तै दुःखद र गम्भीर छ।
माननीय सदस्य दीपक राज बोहरा, समय 7 मिनेट।
सम्माननीय सभामुख महोदय, जल तथा मौसम विज्ञान विभागले एउटा प्रक्षेपण गरेको छ। यही जेठ 18 गतेदेखि असोज 14 गतेसम्म मनसुन अवधिमा देशका अधिकांश ठाउँमा सरदरभन्दा कम वर्षा हुने सम्भावना बताएको छ। अधिकतम तापक्रम कम औसतभन्दा बढी भनिएको छ। यसको अर्थ हो खेतमा पानी कम हुनेछ। सभामुख महोदय, धान रोपाइँ ढिला हुनेछ, कुलो सुक्नेछ, मुहान सुक्नेछ, तराईमा लु चल्नेछ, वनमा डढेलो लाग्नेछ र अन्त्यमा जनताको भान्सामा यसको प्रत्यक्ष असर पुग्नेछ। सभामुख महोदय, नेपालको कृषि अझै पनि आकाशे पानीकै भरमा टिकेको छ। हामीले धेरै कुरा आधुनिक बनायौँ भनेर गर्व गरिरहेका छौँ, तर किसान अझै आकाशतिर हेर्न बाध्य छन्। असार र साउन धान रोप्ने मुख्य समय हो। यही समयमा पानी नपरे खेत बाँझो हुन्छ, धान मकै लगायत बर्खे बालीको उत्पादन घट्छ। यसको सिधा असर देशको अर्थतन्त्रमा पर्छ। जीडीपी घट्छ। जीडीपी घट्नुलाई हामीले ठुलो आर्थिक शब्द धान मात्रै होइन, अन्य बाली पनि प्रभावित हुनेछन्। त्यसका लागि क्षति कम हुने रणनीति तत्काल अपनाइयोस्। सभामुख महोदय, म निर्वाचित भएको कञ्चनपुरका किसानहरूको एउटा गुनासो राख्न चाहन्छु। किसानहरू त्यहाँ मोटो धान मात्र पाउँछ। अहिले बजारमा तपाईँहरूले हेर्ने हो भने मसिनो चामल बिक्री हुन्छ। मसिनो चामलको रेट पनि महँगो हुन्छ। तर किसानहरूले मसिनो चामल बिक्री पाएका छैनन्।
आपत्ति जनाउन चाहन्छु।
सभामुख महोदय, अब छोटकरीमा म दुध किसानका केही समस्याहरू राख्न चाहन्छु। देशभरि हजारौं दुध किसानहरू छन्। दुध किसानहरूको कुरा गर्दाखेरि दुध किसानहरूले त्यो बाइकमा ट्याङ्की झुन्ड्याएर दुध बेच्ने बजार जानुहुन्छ। बजार जाँदाखेरि एकजना किसानले ट्राफिकलाई पैसा बुझाउनु पर्ने समस्या सुनेका छौँ। मेरो निर्वाचन क्षेत्र मात्र होइन, देशमा त्यो सवारी साधन बाइकमा दुध राख्न पाइँदैन, लान पाइँदैन भनेर ट्राफिकले चिट काट्छ। चिट नकाट्ने हो भने मासिक पैसा उठाउने गरेको मेरै निर्वाचन क्षेत्रमा मैले देखेको छु। बजार पुग्नु अघि ट्राफिकहरूले हरेक पोस्टहरूमा पैसा बुझाउनु पर्ने गुनासो सबैतिर छ। यदि कुनै किसानले 5वटा ट्राफिक पोस्ट पार गर्ने हो भने महिनामा 5,000 रुपैयाँ अवैध असुलीको विषय होइन, यो राज्यले किसानलाई कसरी हेर्छ भन्ने प्रश्न हो। एकातिर हामी युवालाई देश नै केही गर भन्छौँ, अर्कोतिर मेहनत गरेर दुध बेच्न जाने किसानलाई बाटोमा अवरोध खडा गर्छौँ। विदेश जानेलाई विमानस्थल खुला छ, तर गाउँबाट दुध ल्याउने किसानलाई सडकमा नै महँगो दिनुपर्छ। सहुलियत 3 पाङ्ग्रे वा 4 पाङ्ग्रे ढुवानी साधन किसानहरूलाई उपलब्ध गराइनुपर्छ। किसानलाई आन्तरिक आर्थिक भार नपर्ने गरी व्यावहारिक नियम बनाइनुपर्छ। राज्यसँग विलासिता केही पनि मागेको छैन। उनीहरूले केवल मागेको छ त बिउ मागेको छ, न्यायपूर्ण व्यवहार मागेको छ। अन्त्यमा म यति भन्न चाहन्छु, किसानको खेत सुक्खा हुँदा केवल बाली मर्दैन, देशको भविष्य कमजोर हुन्छ। त्यसैले समयमा तयारी गरौँ, किसानलाई बचाउँ, कृषिलाई बचाउँ, देशको भोलि बचाउँ। धन्यवाद।
माननीय सदस्य प्रकाश कार्की, समय 3 मिनट।
जनजीवनसँग प्रत्यक्ष सरोकार राख्ने विषयहरूमा सरकारको ध्यानाकर्षण गराउन चाहन्छु। जनआन्दोलन पछिको लामो राजनीतिक सङ्घर्षपछि नेपाली जनताले सुशासन, पारदर्शिता, विधिको शासन र समृद्ध नेपालको सपना देखेका थिए। स्थायी वर्तमान सरकार गठन हुँदा पनि नागरिकमा आशा जागेको छ कि अब राज्य संयन्त्र जनमुखी, उत्तरदायी र न्यायपूर्ण हुनेछ। सम्माननीय सभामुख महोदय, नेपालका धेरै कानुनहरू राजनीतिक परिस्थिति र केन्द्रीकृत सोचबाट निर्माण भएका कारण आजको लोकतान्त्रिक आवश्यकता र आर्थिक परिवेश र जनअपेक्षासँग मेल खान सकेका छैनन्। पुराना र अव्यावहारिक कानुनको आडमा सुशासन लागू गर्न खोज्दा जनताले सहजताको सट्टा दुःख पाइरहेका छन्। त्यसैले वर्तमान आवश्यकता र जनभावना अनुसार कानुनहरूको व्यापक पुनरावलोकन र संशोधन आजको अपरिहार्य आवश्यकता हो। सभामुख महोदय, राष्ट्रको अर्थतन्त्रमा साना तथा मझौला व्यवसायहरूको योगदान अत्यन्त महत्त्वपूर्ण छ। जीडीपी, रोजगारी र उत्पादनमा ठुलो योगदान दिने यी क्षेत्रहरूलाई संरक्षण र प्रोत्साहन नगरी आर्थिक समृद्धि सम्भव छैन। सरकार केवल करको दर बढाउनेतर्फ मात्र केन्द्रित नभई करको दायरा विस्तार गरी आर्थिक गतिविधिलाई औपचारिक क्षेत्रमा ल्याउनेतर्फ केन्द्रित हुनुपर्दछ। त्यसै गरी आज एक मध्यमवर्गीय परिवारले गम्भीर स्वास्थ्य उपचार गर्नु परेमा जीवनभरको बचत समाप्त हुने अवस्था छ। त्यसैले नेपाली काङ्ग्रेसले उठाउँदै आएको राष्ट्रिय स्वास्थ्य बिमा कार्यक्रमलाई अझ प्रभावकारी सर्वसुलभताका साथ लागू गर्न आवश्यक छ। सायद यो सबै जिल्लाका मान्यज्यूहरूले यसमा चाहिँ खेपिराख्नु भएको होला, स्वास्थ्यको प्रेसर कति छ भनेर। सभामुख महोदय, आज म यो सम्मानित सदनमा उभिँदा केवल एउटा सांसदको रूपमा मात्रै होइन, सोलुखुम्बु जिल्लाको जनताको आवाज बोकेर आएको जनप्रतिनिधिको रूपमा पनि उभिएको छु। सोलुखुम्बु जिल्ला हाम्रो देशको मात्रै महत्त्व बोकेको जिल्ला होइन, यो संसारभरिका मानिसले चिनेको, हेरेको र सम्मान गरेको जिल्ला हो। त्यसैले सर्वोच्च शिखर सगरमाथाको जिल्ला सोलुखुम्बु नेपाल प्रतीक हो, तर विडम्बना यति ठुलो अन्तर्राष्ट्रिय महत्त्व बोकेको जिल्लाका गरी घन्टौँ होइन दिनौँसम्म बाटैमा अलपत्र पर्ने अवस्था छ। म सरकारको गम्भीर ध्यानाकर्षण गराउन चाहन्छु। सालमे सडक खण्डको पहिरो समस्या दीर्घकालीन रूपमा समाधान गर्न तत्काल प्रभावकारी योजना ल्याइयोस्, वैज्ञानिक अध्ययनसहित पक्की संरचना निर्माण गरियोस्, सडकलाई सुरक्षित व्यवस्थित बनाइयोस्। सभामुख महोदय, यो
छट्याउनुहोस्
समस्या
माननीय।
केवल सोलुखुम्बुवासीको दुःखको विषय मात्रै होइन, संसारभरिबाट आउने, नेपाल घुम्न आउने पर्यटकहरू पनि यही बाटो भएर सगरमाथा क्षेत्र पुग्छन्। तर सडकको दयनीय अवस्था,
समय सकिन
सालमा
लाग्यो
पहिरोको
माननीय।
कारण उनीहरूले समेत जोखिमपूर्ण यात्रा गर्न बाध्य भइरहेका छन्। यसले नेपालको पर्यटन क्षेत्रमै नकारात्मक सन्देश प्रवाह गरिरहेको छ। धन्यवाद।
माननीय हरि ढकालज्यू। समय 8 मिनेट। त्यसपछि माननीय उत्तम पौडेलज्यू।
सम्माननीय सभामुख महोदय, मलाई दोस्रो कार्यकालका लागि अत्याधिक जनमतसहित निर्वाचित गराउनुहुने मतदाताहरूप्रति हार्दिक आभार प्रकट गर्न चाहन्छु। निर्वाचनताका मत अपिल गर्न जाँदा मलाई हजारौँ हातहरूले टाउकामा हात राखेर आशीर्वाद दिनुभएको थियो। आज म यो गरिमामय सदनबाट ती आशीर्वादहरू सिरोपर गर्न चाहन्छु। विभिन्न कालखण्डमा शहीद हुनुभएका शहीदहरूलाई हार्दिक श्रद्धासुमन अर्पण गर्न चाहन्छु। गत भदौ 23 र 24 गते जेएनजी आन्दोलनमा शहीद हुनुभएका शहीदहरूप्रति हार्दिक श्रद्धासुमन अर्पण गर्न चाहन्छु। देशैभरिका कर्मठ मेहनती किसानलाई सम्मान व्यक्त गर्न चाहन्छु। देशभरिका करदाताहरूलाई सम्मान व्यक्त गर्न चाहन्छु। प्रवासमा रहने ती मेरा प्रिय दाजुभाइ दिदीबहिनीहरू जो प्रवासमा रहेर मेहनत गरेर यो देशको अर्थतन्त्र रेमिटेन्स पठाएर धानिरहनु भएको छ, म प्रवासमा रहने दाजुभाइ दिदीबहिनीहरूलाई पनि सम्मान व्यक्त गर्न चाहन्छु। सम्माननीय सभामुख महोदय, शहीद र शहीदका परिवार र आन्दोलनका घाइतेहरूलाई यदि बिर्सिन थाल्ने हो भने, ती मर्म र ती भावनाहरू बिर्सिन थाल्ने हो भने हिजो र विगत जस्तै आउने दिनहरू पनि बन्छ। गत भदौ 23 र 24 गते शहीद हुनुभएका शहीदका परिवारहरूको मर्म र भावना बुझ्नुपर्छ। गत भदौ 23 र 24 गते 2600 भन्दा बढी घाइते हुनुभएको छ। 750 भन्दा थोरै बढीले घाइते कार्ड पाउनु भएको छ। तर उपचारका लागि उपचार गर्दै गर्दा तेरो करङमा रहेको गोली चाहिँ अपरेसन गरेर निकालिदिन्छु, औषधि चाहिँ आफै खा भन्न पाइँदैन। त्यो आन्दोलनमा घाइते हुँदै गर्दा हातले काम गर्न छोडेछ, हातको अपरेसन गरेर हात निकालिदिन्छु, आउने जीवन जसरी बाँचे नि बाँच भन्न पाइँदैन। सम्माननीय सभामुख महोदय, द्वन्द्व व्यवस्थापनका लागि विगतमा भएका द्वन्द्वहरू र ती द्वन्द्व व्यवस्थापनका लागि विगतमा अरबौँ खर्च भएकै हुन्। माओवादी द्वन्द्व र त्यो द्वन्द्व व्यवस्थापनका लागि लडाकु शिविरमा पनि अरबौँ खर्च गरिएकै हो। तसर्थ यी घाइतेहरू जसको उपचारका लागि सरकारले कन्जुस्याइ गरेको हो कि भन्ने आभास हामीलाई लागेको छ, कति पनि कन्जुस्याइ नगरोस्। म यसको लागि सम्माननीय सभामुख मार्फत सरकारको ध्यान आकर्षण गराउन चाहन्छु। सम्माननीय सभामुख महोदय, म दोस्रो पटक निर्वाचित भएर पहिलो पटक माइक समाउँदै गर्दा बोल्दै गर्दा मैले आवाजका निवेदनहरू यो गरिमामय सदनमा दर्ज गर्न चाहन्छु। यसपटक पनि मैले किसानका समस्याका मुद्दा र किसानका आवाजहरू बोकेर आएको छु। यसपटक पनि मैले सीमाङ्कृत चेपाङ समुदाय र ती समुदायका कुपोषित बालबालिकाहरूको आवाज बोकेर आएको छु। यसपटक पनि मैले भूमिहीन सुकुम्बासीका समस्याका मुद्दाहरू र ती आवाजहरू बोकेर आएको छु। यसपटक पनि मैले देशैभरि अटो चलाएर, अटोको सवारी चलाएर दैनिकी गुजारा गर्न नसकेका ती अटो चालकहरूका आवाजहरू बोकेर आएको छु। यसपटक पनि मैले श्रमजीवीका आवाजहरू बोकेर आएको छु। व्यावसायिक वातावरण खलबलिएर व्यवसायमा घाटा हुँदाहुँदै पनि कर तिरिरहेका व्यवसायीका आवाजहरू बोकेर आएको छु। छरिएर रहेको पुँजीलाई एकीकृत गर्दै देश निर्माणमा योगदान गर्ने र राज्यलाई विपत्तै कर बुझाउने सेक्टर नेपालको पुँजी बजार, त्यो पुँजी बजारका लगानीकर्ताका आवाजहरू यसपटक पनि बोकेर आएको छु। सम्मानित सभामुख महोदय, मैले भुइँका आवाजहरू यसपटक पनि बोकेर आएको छु। मलाई विगतको 31 महिनाको केही अनुभवका अनुभूतिहरू गरिमामय सदनमा राख्न चाहन्छु। मलाई अनुभूत भएको थियो विगतमा सत्ताले सरकारलाई झुट बोलिदिने अथवा सत्ताको झुट सरकारले पत्याइदिने अनि जनप्रतिनिधिमाझ आएर सरकारले झुट बोलिदिने र त्यो झुट जनप्रतिनिधिले उस्तै गरी जनता सामु बोल्न पर्ने बाध्यता मैले विगतको कार्यकालको 31 महिनामा अनुभूत गरेका थिएँ। मैले यी आवाजहरू निवेदन दर्ज गराइरहँदा मैले गत कार्यकालको सदनमा सङ्ख्या पुगेन हजुर, सङ्ख्या पुगेन भनेको थिएँ। सङ्ख्या यथेष्ट पुगेको छ। म विश्वस्त छु सत्ताले कहीँ कतै जालझेल र झुट गर्दैछ, झुट बोल्दैछ भने सरकारले जनप्रतिनिधिका अगाडि झुट नबोलोस्। यसका लागि सभामुख मार्फत म सरकारलाई ध्यानकर्षण गराउन चाहन्छु। सम्मानित सभामुख महोदय, हाम्रो संसदीय अभ्यास युरोपसँग दाँच्दा धेरै कान्छा छौँ हामी, हाम्रो धेरै छोटो छ। बेलायती संसदीय अभ्यास धेरै लामो छ। औपचारिक रेकर्डहरू नै बेलायतमा त 15औं शताब्दीदेखि यताका औपचारिक रेकर्डहरू रहेछन्। म गरिमामय सदनको यहाँको मर्यादा कायम राख्न, गरिमामय सदनको मर्यादा बढाउन, हाम्रा त्रुटिहरूलाई गल्तीमा रूपान्तरण हुन नदिन सबैलाई हार्दिक अपिल गर्न चाहन्छु। यो विगत बनेर जाँदै गर्दा इतिहास बन्नेछ र विगत बन्दाखेरि हामी कोही पनि अजम्बरी छैनौँ, हामी पनि विगत बन्छौँ। विगत बन्ने त्यो इतिहासमा हाम्रो संसदीय अभ्यास र हाम्रो संसदीय गरिमा उत्कृष्टता इतिहासमा दर्ज होस्। यसका लागि सबैजना संवेदनशील बनौँ, सबैजना जिम्मेवार बनौँ, सबैजनाले यसमा ध्यान दिनको लागि म अपिल गर्न चाहन्छु। सम्मानित सभामुख महोदय, अन्तमा सत्ता पक्ष प्रतिपक्ष जित हार यी चिजहरूले विगतमा समाजमा गहिरोसँग तल जरैसम्म प्रभाव राखेको थियो। यसका अन्त्यका लागि राष्ट्रिय स्वतन्त्र पार्टीको चुनावी परिणाम पश्चात नै जुन किसिमबाट हामीले विजय उत्सव मनाएनौँ, त्यो ईर्ष्याहरूलाई शान्त पार्नका लागि अभियानहरू थाल्यौँ, हामीले सुरु गरेका छौँ। सदनमा पनि सृजनात्मक बहस र हार्दिकताका लागि पक्ष र विपक्ष सबैलाई हार्दिक रहन र हार्दिकता प्रस्तुत गर्न म आशावादी रहन्छु, आशावादी छु। सम्मान्य सभामुख महोदय, यदि ईर्ष्याहरू र इगोहरू सधैँ मनमा आइरह्यो भने श्रीमद् भागवतको प्रथम स्कन्धको 12 देखि 16 अध्याय राजा परीक्षितको कथा छ, त्यो कथा सबैले पढ्नको लागि अनुरोध गर्दै बिदा माग्छु। धन्यवाद।
माननीय सदस्य उत्तम पौडेल, समय 3 मिनट। त्यसपछि माननीय पारसमणि गेलाल।
सम्माननीय सभामुख महोदय, सर्वप्रथम त म कास्की क्षेत्र नम्बर 2बाट निर्वाचित भएको हुँ, त्यसैले गर्दा कास्की क्षेत्र नम्बर 2 का सम्पूर्ण मतदाताहरूलाई हृदयदेखि नै हार्दिक धन्यवाद दिँदै सम्मान प्रकट गर्न चाहन्छु। कास्कीको विषयमा कुराकानी गर्दा सम्माननीय सभामुख महोदय, यति बेला सुकुम्बासी र भूमिहीनको समस्या एकदमै जटिल रूपमा आइरहेको छ। सङ्घ सरकारले सुकुम्बासीलाई लाल पूर्जा दिने र त्यसै गरी सुकुम्बासीका समस्याहरू समाधान गरेर व्यवस्थापन गर्ने भनिरहँदाखेरि स्थानीय तहका प्रतिनिधिहरू, स्थानीय तहको सरकारले र त्यसका प्रतिनिधिहरूले हरेक दिन जसो सुकुम्बासी र अव्यवस्थित बस्तीमा गएर माथिको आदेश हो, यो आदेशअनुसार डोजर आउँदैछ भनेर आतङ्कित बनाइरहेको हामीलाई दिनदिनै यो खबरहरू आइरहेको छ। त्यसैले गर्दा म यहाँ विनम्रताका साथ आग्रह गर्न चाहन्छु, कृपया स्थानीय तहले सङ्घ सरकारसँगको समन्वय नभएको हो कि अथवा सङ्घ सरकार र स्थानीय तहबिचको समन्वय नभएको कारणले गर्दाखेरि स्थानीय जनताहरू आतङ्कित हुन परेको हो, यो कुरा चाहिँ यहाँ यति बेला चाहिँ म जानकारी गराउन चाहन्छु। त्यसै गरी अर्को विषय छ सम्माननीय सभामुख महोदय, यति बेला सरकारले करको कुरा गर्छौँ हामी, तर हामी यस्तो देशका नागरिक हौँ जहाँ कर तिर्नका लागि हामी लाइन लागेर बस्नुपर्ने आज पनि बाध्यता रहेको छ। 10 बजेदेखि 2 बजेसम्म राजस्व र कर तिर्नुपर्ने र त्यस पछाडिको समयमा कर तिर्न नपाउने भएका कारणले गर्दा कतिपय दिनहरूमा भोलिपल्ट जाँदाखेरि फाइन लाग्ने अथवा चाहिँ अतिरिक्त शुल्क लाग्ने आज चाहिँ त्यो समस्या रहेको छ। त्यो समस्या यथाशीघ्र त्यसलाई चाहिँ व्यवस्थापन गरियोस् र समाधान गरियोस् भनी सरकारको ध्यानाकर्षण गराउन चाहन्छु भने त्यसलाई डिजिटल माध्यमबाट सकेसम्म 24 घण्टा राज्यले लिनुपर्ने अथवा पाउनुपर्ने कर 24 घण्टा लिने अथवा तिर्न सक्ने प्रबन्ध मिलाइयोस् भनी म यति बेला ध्यानाकर्षण गराउन चाहन्छु र सरकारको ध्यानाकर्षण पनि गराउन चाहन्छु भने अन्तिममा म अर्को एउटा कुरा यहाँ भन्न चाहन्छु। हस्, धन्यवाद।
माननीय पारसमणि गेलाल, त्यसपछि माननीय आशिका तामाङ।
सम्माननीय सभामुख महोदय, म आज यो गरिमामय सदनमा सम्पूर्ण माननीय ज्यूहरूको पनि विशेष कुरामा ध्यान आकर्षण गराउन चाहन्छु कि हामी यो गरिमामय सदनमा उपस्थिति भइरहँदा 9 महिना तलब पाएनौँ भने यो सिटमा बस्न आउन सक्छौँ कि सक्दैनौँ? म यो प्रश्न गर्न चाहन्छु। यो सदन मार्फत सरकारको ध्यान आकर्षण गराउन चाहन्छु। उदयपुर सिमेन्ट उद्योगमा विगत 14 महिनादेखि त्यहाँका कर्मचारी, त्यहाँका श्रमिक वर्गहरूले तलब नपाई बसिरहनु भएको अवस्था छ। यो सरकारलाई सर्वविदितै छ, तर पनि आजसम्म तलब नदिएर सरकारले के गर्न खोजेको भन्ने कुरा चाहिँ त्यहाँको आम श्रमिक र कर्मचारीहरूको आवाज छ। त्यो आवाज मात्रै म प्रस्तुत गर्न चाहन्छु। यहाँबाट सरकारको ध्यान आकर्षण होस्, ती श्रमिक, ती बिरामी आमाबुवा र उहाँहरूका परिवारहरू कसरी पालिरहेका होलान्, यो सम्मानित सदनले सरकारको ध्यान आकर्षण गराउन चाहन्छु। विगत 25 वर्षदेखि उदयपुर जिल्लाको क्षेत्र नम्बर 1 मा मोतीगढादेखि फतेपुरसम्म जाने बाटोमा 5 देखि 6 वटा खोला नालाहरू छन्। त्यो बाटोमा 40,000 भन्दा बढी जनसङ्ख्या छ। त्यो बाटो आजसम्म पुलहरू बन्न सकेका छैनन्। यहाँ जाजरकोटका कर्णालीका कुराहरू उठ्छन्, सुदूरपश्चिमका कुराहरू उठ्छन्, पहाडी जिल्लाका कुराहरू उठ्छन् र मलाई चाहिँ ती कुराहरू उठिरहँदा म आफ्नो क्षेत्रलाई सम्झन्छु। क्षेत्रमा एउटा पनि पुल छैन। बर्खा लागेपछि 3 देखि 4 महिना त्यहाँका विद्यार्थीहरू विद्यालय जान पाउँदैनन् र एकदमै विद्यालय गएका विद्यार्थीहरू कतिखेर फर्किन्छन् भन्ने अवस्थामा गार्जनहरू बस्नु परेको अवस्था छ। त्यो दयनीय अवस्था छ। त्यहाँका खोला नालामा पुलहरू कहिले बन्ने, म यो सदन मार्फत प्रश्न गर्न पनि चाहन्छु। हामीले संहिता ल्यायौँ, प्रदेशहरू रोज्यौँ, हामीले स्थानीय तहसम्म अधिकारहरू माग्यौँ। आज त्यहाँ अधिकार दुरुपयोग भइरहेको छ। त्यहाँका शिक्षकहरूलाई प्रताडित गरिँदैछ। स्थानीय सरकारले जथाभावी रूपमा सरुवा गर्ने, आफूले भनेअनुसार काम नहुँदा सरुवा गर्ने कार्य भइरहेको छ। यसको समन्वयात्मक भूमिका कसले खेल्ने? ती अधिकार दुरुपयोग गर्नेहरूमाथि, जनप्रतिनिधिहरूमाथि पनि कारबाही हुने कि नहुने? यो सदन, सम्मानित सदन मार्फत म यो प्रश्न उठाउन चाहन्छु। त्यहाँ स्वास्थ्य सेवाहरू बाक्सीखोप जस्ता पहाडी भेगमा स्वास्थ्य स्वयंसेविकाहरूले त्यहाँ औषधि दिनुहुन्न। उहाँहरू बाहिर बस्नुहुन्छ र त्यस्ता धेरै उदयपुरका धेरै उदाहरणहरू छन्। सभामुख महोदय, स्वास्थ्य सेवा त्यहाँका जनताले पाएका छैनन्। म थोरै समय लिन चाहन्छु सभामुख महोदय। विगत 1.5 महिनादेखि समय माग्दा 3 मिनट समय मिलेको छ। त्यहाँका जनताले स्वास्थ्य सेवा उपचार पर्याप्त मात्रामा पाउन पाएका छैनन् र ती जनताका विषयमा कसले सोच्ने सभामुख महोदय, कहिले सोच्ने? अब उदयपुर क्षेत्र नम्बर 1 मा म स्वास्थ्य मन्त्रालयको ध्यानाकर्षण गराउन चाहन्छु, एउटा सङ्घीय अस्पतालको व्यवस्था गरियोस्। त्यहाँ डायलासिसको लागि बिरामीहरू महिनौसम्म कुर्नुपर्ने अवस्था छ, ती सेवा सुविधालाई विशेष व्यवस्था गरियोस् भन्न चाहन्छु।
समय सकियो।
समय सिद्धिएको मैले महसुस गरिरहेको छु सभामुख महोदय। अब यी धेरै समस्याहरूका बिचबाट मैले जनताका आवाज बोलिरहेको छु। यी जनताको आवाज यहाँ बोल्ने मात्रै सीमित हुने हो कि सरकारले त्यसलाई पुरा गर्ने हो भन्ने कुरा चाहिँ
माननीय, माफ
हेर्न बाँकी छ।
गर्नुहोला, मैले
हस्त,
यहाँ
धन्यवाद।
बन्द गर्ने पर्ने बेला भयो। माननीय सदस्य आशिका तामाङ, समय 3 मिनेट। त्यसपछि माननीय सदस्य प्रेमलाल चौधरी।
सम्मानीय सभामुख महोदय, बाँदर र बँदेल आतङ्क अहिलेको कृषिमा कृषकहरूको प्रमुख समस्या हो। यिनीहरूको हत्या होइन, दीर्घकालीन व्यवस्थापन गरिनु पर्दछ। यहाँ हत्या एकतर्फी मानवबाट मात्र होइन सभामुख महोदय, बेला बेलामा जङ्गली जनावरबाट पनि आक्रमणमा परि जनताहरूले आफ्नो ज्यान गुमाउनु परिरहेको छ। बाँदरलाई बन्दुक पड्काएर वा पटका पड्काएर वा पुत्ला बनाएर तर्साउने भगाउने यो धेरै पुरानो चलन हो। यसबाट कृषकले अस्थायी लाभ मात्र लिन सक्छन्। त्यसैले सभामुख महोदय, अब हामी नयाँ ढङ्ग र प्रविधिलाई जोडेर दीर्घकालीन उपायबाट बाँदरको व्यवस्थापन खोज्नु पर्दछ। नम्बर 1, जङ्गलमै पर्याप्त जङ्गली फलफुलहरू लगाउने, जसबाट उनीहरूले जङ्गलबाट नै पर्याप्त खानेकुराहरू पाउन सक्छन्। नम्बर 2, बाँदरलाई मन नपर्ने खेती जस्तै अदुवा, बेसार, खुर्सानी खेती या गाँजा खेती, रबर खेती गर्ने, जनतालाई यस्तो खेतीमा प्रोत्साहन गर्ने तथा राज्यबाट यस सम्बन्धी जनचेतनामूलक कार्यक्रम ल्याउने। र 3 नम्बरमा अन्तिममा यसको भरपर्दो व्यवस्थापन भनेको सोलर जडित तारबार वा लो भोल्टेज इलेक्ट्रिकल फेन्सिङ नै हो। सभामुख महोदय, हाम्रो देश भौगोलिक विविधता भएको हुँदा मधेस र तराई भेगमा तत्काल सोलर जडित तारबार गर्न कुनै आइतबारले पनि छेल्दैन र हामीले एकदमै छिटो नै सुरुवात गर्न सक्छौँ सभामुख महोदय। र पहाडी भेगमा हामीले फलामे काँडे तारबार लगाउन सक्छौँ। र अन्तिममा सभामुख महोदय, यो संसार सबै प्राणीहरूको साझा घर हो। यो संसारमा आएपछि सबैजना बाँच्नु पाउनुपर्छ र बेला बेलामा सदनबाट हत्या गर्नुपर्छ भन्ने यस्तो खालको शब्द चाहिँ अबदेखि नसुनियोस्। र यो सम्बन्धी एकदमै यो मानवसँग जोडिएको, हाम्रो धर्मसँग जोडिएको यो बाँदर चाहिँ हाम्रो धर्म संस्कृतिसँग जोडिएको हुँदाखेरि हाँसेर पनि नउडाउनु होला भनेर म विनम्र अनुरोध गर्न चाहन्छु। र यसबाट चाहिँ यसको यो समस्या चाहिँ हामीले सही व्यवस्थापन हामीले गर्न सक्यौँ भने सभामुख महोदय, सबै प्राणीहरूले मानिस लगायत सबै प्राणीहरूले चाहिँ यसले चाहिँ न्याय राम्रोसँग पाउनेछ भनेर मैले हार्दिक धन्यवाद प्रकट गर्न चाहन्छु। जय शम्भो।
माननीय सदस्य प्रेमलाल चौधरी, समय 3 मिनेट। त्यसपछि माननीय रविन्द्र पटेल।
समय चाहिँ अलिकति थपिदिन पर्छ होला सभामुख महोदय। सम्माननीय सभामुख महोदय, म आज त्यो जिल्लाको कुरा गर्न गइरहेको छु जसले असङ्ख्य सम्भावना, पहिचान र गौरव बोकेर पनि अझै सक्षम नेतृत्व, प्रभावकारी व्यवस्थापन र राज्यको विशेष ध्यानको प्रतीक्षामा बस्नु परेको छ। सूर्योदयको भूमि, देशकै गौरव, उत्कृष्ट चियाको पहिचान, पर्यटकीय आकर्षण र जलविद्युतको अपार सम्भावना बोकेको त्यो जिल्ला हो इलाम, जहाँ राज्यको नजर पुग्दैन। त्यहाँ जनताको पसिना मात्र होइन, सपनाहरू पनि हराउन थाल्छन्। अब यस्तो हुनै हुँदैन। नेपालबाट निर्यात हुने चियाको करिब 80% हिस्सा ओगटेको इलामसहित देशभरिका करिब 38,000 चिया कृषक, 60,000 श्रमिक तथा वार्षिक 4 अर्ब 69 करोड रुपियाँको कारोबार गर्ने उद्योगी व्यवसायहरू वर्षौँदेखि पीडित भइरहेका छन्। विशेष गरी चियाको पहिलो गुणस्तरीय मुना टिप्ने तथा अत्याधिक उत्पादन हुने समयमा नेपाली चियाको मुख्य बजार रहेको भारतीय पक्षले टी टेस्टिङ र क्वालिटी एस्युरेन्सको नाममा निर्यात रोक्दै महिनौसम्म सीमामा होल्ड गरिदिँदा अर्बौं रुपियाँ बराबरको चिया डम्पिङ गर्नुपर्ने अवस्था सिर्जना भएको छ। यस्तो किसिमको यसले किसानको पसिना, व्यवसायको लगानी र राष्ट्रको आम्दानीमाथि गम्भीर प्रहार गरेको छ। विगतमा यस्ता समस्या आउँदा सम्माननीय प्रधानमन्त्रीज्यूहरूले प्रत्यक्ष संवाद मार्फत तत्काल समाधान गर्ने प्रयास गरेको अनुभव चिया उद्योगीहरूले गरेका थिए। तर आज देश, किसान र व्यवसायी सबैले वर्तमान सरकारबाट आर्थिक कूटनीति प्रयोग गरी दीर्घकालीन तथा स्थायी समाधानको अपेक्षा गरेका छन्। अर्कोतर्फ 82 भदौ 24 गते काँगडभिट्टा भन्सार क्षेत्रमा आगलागीबाट जलेर नष्ट भएको चियाको बिमा भुक्तानीमा बिमा कम्पनीहरूले उदासीनता देखाइरहेका छन्। हरियो तथा हाइजेनिक तरकारीका रूपमा परिचित इस्कुस, अदुवा, अम्लिसो र अलैँचीले समेत चियाले भोगे जस्तै समस्या भोगिरहेका छन्। यी कृषि उपजहरूको निर्यात, व्यवस्थापन, गुणस्तर प्रमाणीकरण तथा बजार सुनिश्चितताका लागि सरकारले स्थायी समाधान खोज्न आवश्यक छ। दुग्ध विकास संस्थानको दुध सङ्कलनमा इलामको ठुलो योगदान रहेको छ, तर संस्थानले देशभरिका दुध किसानहरूको भुक्तानी 82 साल असोज महिनादेखि रोक्दा किसानहरू मर्नु न बाँच्नुको दोसाँधमा पुगेका छन्। किसानको पसिनाको मूल्य समयमै भुक्तानी गराउने दायित्व सरकारको हो भन्ने कुरा म यस सदन मार्फत जोडदार रूपमा स्मरण गराउन चाहन्छु। सूर्योदयको अनुपम दृश्य देखिने श्रीअन्तु हरिया चियाबारीले सजिएका डाँडापाखा, सानी पाथिभरा देवी मन्दिर, तराईको गर्मीबाट राहत दिने वसन्तीय मौसम, यी सबैले आन्तरिक तथा बाह्य पर्यटकलाई आकर्षित गरिरहेका छन्। तर विडम्बना, पर्यटन बोर्ड र सम्बन्धित मन्त्रालयबाट इलामको पर्यटन प्रवर्धनमा अपेक्षित ध्यान पुगेको देखिँदैन। त्यसै गरी इलाममा 17-18वटा जलविद्युत आयोजना सञ्चालनमा रहेका छन्, तर त्यही जिल्लाका नागरिकहरू नै विद्युत आपूर्तिको अवरोधबाट पीडित छन्। जलविद्युत आयोजना निर्माणका क्रममा स्थानीयका लागि छुट्याइएको सेयर वितरणमा समेत अनियमितता भएको र धेरै नागरिकले सेयर नपाएको गुनासो व्यापक रूपमा उठिरहेको छ। खानेपानीको दृष्टिले अत्यन्त महत्त्वपूर्ण वृहत खानेपानी आयोजनाको करिब 80% काम सम्पन्न भए पनि बाँकी 20% काम लामो समयदेखि अलपत्र पर्दा जनता काकाकुल अवस्थामा छन्। जिल्लामा सुविधा सम्पन्न अस्पतालको अभाव छ। ठिक्कल स्थित जिल्ला आयुर्वेद अस्पतालले साँगो र पूर्वाधारमा पनि उत्कृष्ट सेवा दिइरहेको छ। त्यस अस्पतालको तथा पूर्वाधार विकास आवश्यक छ। धन्यवाद।
माननीय सदस्य रविन्द्र पटेल, समय 3 मिनट। त्यसपछि पुनः माननीय सदस्य पुनम अग्रवाल।
साउन्ड दिनु अलि साउन्ड। सम्माननीय सभामुख महोदय, म 2 मिनटमै सक्ने कोसिस गर्छु र मैले आज बोल्नुपर्ने विषय भनेको मध्य प्रदेशमा 10 देखि लिएर 20% को कमिसन र दलाली लिएर मध्य प्रदेशको विकास बजेटहरू बिक्री भइरहेको छ। त्यसैले कहाँ छ र कुन गल्लीमा छ अख्तियार र सिआइबी? किन कारबाही हुँदैन? किन छापामारी गर्दैन? सम्माननीय सभामुख महोदय, रौतहट जिल्लामा अवैध क्रेसरहरू, त्यहाँका गृह प्रशासनलाई कतिचोटि भने अवैध क्रेसरहरू राजनीति सत्ताको आडमा चल्दैछ र बागमती र बकैया नदी दोहन हैन गैर कानुनी नियम विपरीत उत्खनन गरिँदैछ। त्यसैले म सरकारको ध्यान आकर्षणका साथसाथै जोरदार माग गर्दछु, सुशासनको अनुभूति कहिले हुन्छ? अर्को कुरा, शिक्षा स्वास्थ्यको हाल देशभरिमा मधेस र मधेसभरिमा रौतहटको दयनीय छ, विकराल छ। त्यसैले सिङ्गो मध्य प्रदेशको लागि र रौतहटको लागि यो बजेटमा विशेष प्याकेजको व्यवस्था गरियोस् भन्ने जोरदार माग गर्दछु। अर्को कुरो, सामान्य सभामुख महोदय, लघु वित्त र मिटर ब्याजीको समस्या विकराल छ। लाखौँ गरिबहरू घरभर छोडेर भागेका छन्। मिटर ब्याजको चरम आतंक छ। त्यसैले यो सरकारले सहकारी जस्तै मिटर ब्याज र लघु वित्तको समस्या छिटोभन्दा छिटो समाधान गरोस् भन्ने विनम्र अनुरोधका साथ जोरदार माग गर्दछु। अन्त्यमा म भन्न चाहन्छु, सामान्य सभामुख महोदय, मधेससित धेरै भेदभाव भयो, अन्याय भयो। तैपनि मधेसी जनताहरू राज्यका बिना वर्दीका सिपाही बनेर 10 गजाको रक्षा गर्दै आएको छ। यसपालिको यो हाम्रो जेनजी आन्दोलनको जगमा बनेको रासपाको 2/3 सरकारले मधेसीसित न्याय गरोस्। धेरै माननीयहरूले यहाँ
समय सकियो, छुट्याउनु
म सक्दैछु। धेरै माननीयज्यूहरूले यहाँ मधेसको गरिबको कुरा गर्नुभयो। हाम्रो जेनजीको रगतलाई कथित नीलो क्रान्ति भन्नुभयो। तर म उहाँसित सोध्न चाहन्छु, माननीय कमरेड, तपाईँको रातो क्रान्तिले नेपालीलाई भुटानी बनाएर बेच्ने काम गर्यो। यो देशको समस्या समाधान गर्न सकेन।
समय सकियो माननीय।
म सके यति भन्दै म सरकारको गम्भीर ध्यान आकर्षण गराउँदै म आफ्नो मन्तव्य अन्त गर्छु। धन्यवाद। जय नेपाल, जय देश, जय मधेस, जय जेनजी।
माननीय सदस्य पुनम अग्रवाल, समय 3 मिनेट। त्यसपछि माननीय सदस्य अमरकान्त चौधरी।
सम्माननीय सभामुख महोदय, रूपन्देहीको बेलैया सुनौली नाकामा निर्माणाधीन आइसिपी एकीकृत चेकपोस्ट सम्पन्नपछि नेपाल भारत व्यापार आवत जावत सहज र भन्सार व्यवस्थापन आधुनिक हुने अपेक्षा गरिएको छ। तर आइसिपी रेलवे कनेक्टिभिटीको पहल हुन सकेको छैन। बेलैयासम्म रेलवे कनेक्टिभिटीले माल सामानको ढुवानी सहज, छिटो र कम खर्चिलो बनाउनेछ भने नेपालका उद्योग, व्यवसाय तथा पर्यटन क्षेत्रलाई पनि प्रत्यक्ष लाभ पुग्नेछ। साथै भैरवा नाका हुँदै हुने अन्तर्राष्ट्रिय व्यापारलाई पनि थप व्यवस्थित र प्रतिस्पर्धी बनाउनेछ। ट्रक मार्फत सामान ल्याउँदा ढुवानी समय बढी लाग्ने, बाटोमा क्षति हुने जोखिम, ट्रक भाडा तथा इन्धन खर्च महँगो परिरहेको छ। रेलवे कनेक्सन हुने हो भने ठुलो परिमाणको सामान एकै पटक ल्याउन सकिन्छ भने ट्रान्जिट समय छोटो हुन्छ, ढुवानी खर्च कम लाग्छ र जोखिम पनि न्यून हुन्छ। वीरगञ्ज रेलवे कनेक्सन भएपछि नेपालबाट हुने आयात निर्यातको ढुवानी लागत र समय दुवैमा कमी आएको छ, जसले गर्दा वीरगञ्ज नाका नेपालको सबैभन्दा ठुलो व्यापारिक नाकाका रूपमा अझ सशक्त बनेको छ। नेपालको कुल आयातको झन्डै आधा हिस्सा यही नाकाबाट हुने गरेको भन्सार विभागको तथ्याङ्कले देखाउँछ। यसैले पनि मुलुककै दोस्रो ठुलो भन्सार नाका रूपन्देहीको बेलैया नाका रेलवे कनेक्सन जोड्न जरुरी छ। सम्माननीय सभामुख महोदय, अहिले भैरवा नाकामा जामले शास्ति छ। सामान लोड गरेर नेपाल आउने ट्रकलाई हप्तौँ लाग्ने गरेको छ। वार्षिक 1 खर्ब हाराहारी राजस्व सङ्कलन गर्ने यो नाकाबाट निर्यात पनि 20 अर्ब माथिको हुँदै आएको छ। हामीले निर्यात प्रवर्धन नीति लिइरहँदा रेलवे कनेक्सन नभएकोले हाम्रा नेपाली उत्पादन भारत पुग्दासम्म ढुवानी खर्च नै महँगो पर्न गइरहेको छ। भटमासको प्रशोधित तेल, सिन्थेटिक यार्न, खयर, पिना, चाउचाउ, पास्ता, सिमेन्ट, क्लिङ्कर जस्ता अनेकौँ स्वदेशी उत्पादन निर्यात भइरहेको छ। तर ढुवानी लागत बढी हुँदा प्रतिस्पर्धा र लाभ उठाउन उद्योगीलाई गाह्रो भइरहेको अवस्था छ। नेपाल इन्टरमोडल ट्रान्सपोर्ट डेभलपमेन्ट बोर्डको अध्ययन अनुसार पनि रेलवे मार्गबाट हुने ढुवानी ट्रकभन्दा करिब 40% सस्तो पर्न जान्छ। यसर्थ दैनिक 400 देखि 500 मालवाहक गाडी भित्रिने यो नाका म्यानेज गर्न करिब 8 देखि 9 किलोमिटर दूरीमा रहेको नौतन्वा रेलवे कनेक्टिभिटी जोड्ने योजना भारतसँग कूटनीतिक पहल गरी तत्काल अघि बढाउन सम्माननीय सभामुख मार्फत म सरकारको ध्यान आकर्षण गर्न चाहन्छु। धन्यवाद।
माननीय सदस्य अमरकान्त चौधरी, समय 3 मिनेट।
सम्मान्य सभामुख महोदय, जेनजी आन्दोलनमा शहीद भएकालाई म हार्दिक श्रद्धाञ्जली अर्पण गर्दछु। मेरो गृह जिल्ला सप्तरी क्षेत्र नम्बर 3 का सम्पूर्ण जनतालाई म हृदयबाट धन्यवाद दिन चाहन्छु। सम्मान्य सभामुख महोदय, आज म यस सम्मानित सदनमा देशको लाखौँ किसानको पीडा, पसिना र सङ्घर्षको आवाज लिएर उभिएको छु। म नेपाललाई संसारले कृषि प्रधान देश भनेर चिनिन्छ, तर वियतनाम किसान आफ्नै खेतमा रोइरहेको छ। उत्पादनको मूल्य छैन, किसानले पसिना बगाउँछ तर त्यसको प्रतिफल पाउँदैन। सभामुख महोदय, आज नेपाली जनताको भान्सा विदेशी चामल पाकिरहेको छ र विदेशी तरकारी पाकिरहेछ। आखिर किन? के हाम्रो माटो बाँचेको भयो? के नेपाली किसान मेहनती छैन? होइन सभामुख महोदय, समस्या किसानको होइन, राज्यको कमजोर नीति र व्यवस्थाको हो। यदि किसानलाई समयमा मल, बिउ, सिँचाइ र आधुनिक कृषि उपकरण उपलब्ध गराए भने नेपालको विदेशबाट चामल, दाल, तरकारी र आयात गर्नु अवस्था अन्त्य हुन्छ। आज किसानको ऋणको भरले थिचिएको छ। ब्याङ्कको ढोका ध्याउँदा किसान निराश हुन्छ, तर ठुलो व्यापारी र दलालहरूले सजिलो सुविधा पाइरहेका छन्। यो अन्याय बन्द हुनुपर्छ। सभामुख महोदय, हाम्रो देशमा उत्पादन भएका धान, चामल उचित बजार नपाएर कुखुराको तपाईँको रक्सी फ्याक्ट्रीमा, बियर फ्याक्ट्रीमा परिणत भइरहेको छ। किसानको पसिनाको अपमान भइरहेको छ। यो केवल किसानमाथिको अन्याय होइन, राष्ट्रको आत्मनिर्भरमाथिको प्रहार हो। सभामुख महोदय, म सरकारसँग स्पष्ट रूपमा माग गर्न चाहन्छु, किसानलाई समयमा मल, बिउ र सिँचाइको सुनिश्चित व्यवस्था गरियोस्। सहुलियत ब्याज दरमा कृषि ऋण उपलब्ध गराइयोस्। आधुनिक कृषि उपकरण विशेष अनुदान दियोस्। नेपाली उत्पादनलाई प्राथमिकता दिने नीति कडाइ साथ लागू गरियोस्। किसानले उत्पादन गरेको अन्न र तरकारीको उचित मूल्य सुनिश्चित गरियोस्। सभामुख महोदय, यो देशको किसान बलियो भयो भने देशको अर्थतन्त्र बलियो हुन्छ। किसान खुसी भए देश समृद्धि हुन्छ। त्यसैले कृषि क्षेत्रलाई प्राथमिकता राखेर ठोस योजना ल्याऊ। म सरकारलाई ध्यान आकर्षण गर्न चाहन्छु। सभामुख महोदय, एउटा जिज्ञासा सभामुख महोदय, मलाई 5 गतेको यही संसदमा चलिरहेको बेलामा हाम्रो प्रतिपक्ष मान्य सदस्यज्यूले
समय सकियो। मान्य सदस्य सकियो समय, बस्नुहोस्। मान्य सदस्यहरू, विशेष समयमा मान्य सदस्यहरूले बोल्ने क्रम यहीँ समाप्त हुन्छ। मान्य सदस्य यशोदा कुमारी बरालले माग्नु भएको आकस्मिक समयको आकस्मिक विषय नदेखिएकोले समय दिन सकिएन। बस्नुहोस्। सबै विषय मान्य सदस्यहरूले नै निर्णय गर्ने भए सभामुखको कामै नहुने भयो नि। मान्य सदस्य, मैले मान्य सदस्यले दिनुभएको विषय मैले हेरेँ, सचिवालयसँग सल्लाह गरेँ र मान्य सदस्यले दिनुभएको विषय आकस्मिक लागेन, त्यस कारणले समय निर्धारण गर्न सकिएन। बस्नुहोस् मान्य सदस्य। मान्य सदस्य बस्नुहोस्। मान्य सदस्य बस्नुहोस्। मैले मान्य सदस्यलाई समय दिएको छैन। बस्नुहोस्। मान्य सदस्य आफ्नो मर्यादामा बस्नुहोस् र मान्य सदस्य बस्नुहोस्। मान्य सदस्य, मैले मान्य सदस्यलाई समय दिएको छैन। मान्य सदस्य बस्नुहोस्। मान्य सदस्य यशोदा कुमारी बराललाई मैले फेरि ध्यान आकर्षण गराउँछु, यहाँ बस्नुहोस्, मैले यहाँलाई समय दिएको छैन। माननीय सदस्यहरू, अब सम्माननीय प्रधानमन्त्री, गृहमन्त्री एवं विज्ञान प्रविधि तथा नवप्रवर्तन मन्त्री बालेन्द्र शाहको तर्फबाट माननीय कानुन न्याय तथा संसदीय मामिला मन्त्री शोभिता गौतमलाई प्रतिनिधि सभा सदस्य निर्वाचन पहिलो संशोधन विधेयक 2083 माथि विचार गरियोस् भन्ने प्रस्ताव प्रस्तुत गर्न अनुमति दिन्छु। मान्य मन्त्रीजी एकैछिन पख्नुहोस्। विपक्षी बेन्चका मान्य सदस्यहरू उठ्नु भएको छ, के का लागि उठ्नुभयो? मान्य सदस्यलाई माइक दिनु अगाडि विषय के हो, के का लागि उठ्नुभयो? यसमा नियम आपत्ति गर्नुपर्ने के छ मान्य सदस्य? के विषय स्पष्ट पार्न चाहन्छ मान्य सदस्य? मान्य सदस्य ऐन महरलाई 1 मिनट समय दिन्छु। 1 मिनटमा आफ्नो कुरा राख्नुहोस्। 1 मिनटमा आफ्नो कुरा राख्नुहोस्।
1 मिनटमा हुँदैन सभामुख महोदय। 1 मिनटमा सकिँदैन, 1 मिनट बोल्दिनँ म। 1 मिनट बोल्न सकिँदैन।
मान्य सदस्य आर्यन लाईलाई समय दिन्छु। 1 मिनटमा आफ्नो कुरा राख्नुहोस्।
1 मिनटमा सकिँदैन सभामुख महोदय।
1 मिनटमा सकिन्न सभामुख महोदय। कम्तीमा 3 मिनट त पाउनु।
यसमा समय नि।
मान्य सदस्य युवराज दुलाललाई समय दिन्छु। 1 मिनटमा आफ्नो कुरा राख्नुहोस्।
यहाँ हाम्रो प्रतिपक्षका आवाजलाई कुण्ठित गर्ने, दबाउने कोसिस भयो नि सभामुख महोदय। नीति तथा कार्यक्रमको
मान्य सदस्यले समय माग्नुभयो। मैले मान्य सदस्यहरूलाई समय पालैसँग दिन कोसिस गरेँ। मान्य सदस्यहरूले सभामुखले दिएको समय मान्नु भएन। त्यसकारणले मान्य सदस्यहरूले सभामुखले दिएको समय नमान्ने, मान्य सदस्यहरूले समय माग्ने, सभामुखले समय दिँदा त्यो समय लिन्न भन्ने, यो चाहिँ मर्यादाभित्रै रहेका छौँ मान्य सदस्यहरू। मान्य सदस्य, यहाँहरूले के बोल्नुहुन्छ भन्ने कुरा मान्य सदस्यलाई मैले समय नि दिएको छैन, माइक पनि दिएको छैन। मान्य सदस्य एकहोरो बोलिरहनु भएको छ। यो चाहिँ मर्यादामै छ मान्य सदस्य। मान्य सदस्य ऐन महरलाई, मान्य सदस्य ऐन महरलाई म समय दिन चाहन्छु। मान्य सदस्य ऐन महरले कति घण्टा समय माग्नुहुन्छ? मान्य सदस्य ऐन महरलाई मैले दिएको समय जब तपाईँलाई सभामुखले दिएको समय तपाईँलाई स्वीकार्य छैन भने अब तपाईँले भन्नुहोस् कति समय दिउँ। अब सबै मान्य सदस्यहरूले सभा हलबाट मागेको अनुसार समय दिएर सभा चल्छ। मान्य सदस्य धन्यवाद। मान्य सदस्यले कुरा बुझिदिनु भयो। सभामुखले जान्ने कुरा हो। सभामुखले 1 मिनट समय दिएको छ, बोल्नुहोस्।
एक मिनट ठाउँमा 5 मिनट मागेको सभामुखज्यू। त्यसकारण 5 मिनट समय उपलब्ध गराइयोस्। हामी आफ्ना कुरा राख्छौँ। अरू मान्यज्यूहरूले पनि राख्नुहुन्छ। विषय गम्भीर छ, विषय अत्यन्त
अरू मान्य सदस्यले राख्नुहुन्छ या राख्नुहुन्न, मान्य सदस्य यहाँलाई त्यो विषयमा पनि यहाँ मर्यादाबाट बाहिर गइराख्नु भएको छ। मान्य सदस्यलाई म मान्य सदस्यहरू, मान्य सदस्य ऐनबहादुर महरलाई म 3 मिनट समय दिन्छु। 3 मिनटभित्र आफ्नो कुरा राख्नुहोस्। अन्य मान्य सदस्यहरू बस्नुहोस्।
सभामुख महोदय धन्यवाद। सभामुख महोदय, हामीले नीति तथा कार्यक्रममा प्रधानमन्त्रीज्यूको उपस्थिति चाह्यौँ। त्यति बेला नियम 38 को विषयलाई लिएर व्यापक छलफल र व्याख्या भयो। मैले त्यो बेलामा पनि भनेको थिएँ, कुरा नियमको हो, नियमावलीको होइन, विषय नियतको हो। प्रधानमन्त्रीज्यूको नियत सदनलाई छल्ने, अपमान गर्ने, जनताको मतको उपेक्षा गर्ने, हुर्मत लिने छ। त्यसकारण चाहिँ संविधानको धारा 76 को 10 बमोजिम सदनप्रति उत्तरदायी बन्नुपर्छ सरकार, जनताका आवाजहरू सुनाइ गर्नुपर्छ र त्यसप्रति जवाफ दिनुपर्छ भनेर हामीले भनेका थियौँ। र आज हाम्रो प्रतिनिधि सभा नियमावली 2079 को नियम 56 मा गरिएको व्यवस्था म यहाँ पढ्न चाहन्छु र त्यसको थोरै म व्याख्या गर्न चाहन्छु। सभामुख महोदय, यो अनदेखा भएको छ। यसलाई अनदेखा गरेर सदन अगाडि बढ्न खोजेको छ र जसले प्रधानमन्त्रीलाई थप स्वेच्छाचारी, थप निरङ्कुश र थप अधिनायकवादी बाटोमा हिँड्ने उत्प्रेरित गरेको छ। यो कुराले परिच्छेद 9 को प्रधानमन्त्रीसँग प्रत्यक्ष प्रश्नोत्तर भन्ने व्यवस्था छ र त्यसको नियम 56 मा प्रत्यक्ष प्रश्न गर्न सकिने भन्ने व्यवस्था गरेको छ। सभामुख महोदय, त्यसमा प्रधानमन्त्री वा निजको कार्यक्षेत्रसँग प्रत्यक्ष रूपमा सम्बन्धित महत्त्वपूर्ण विषयमा प्रश्न सोध्नको लागि सभामुखले प्रत्येक महिनाको पहिलो हप्ता भनेको महिना 7 गते भित्र पहिलो हप्ताको कुनै एक दिनको बैठकको 7 गते भित्रको कुनै एक दिनको बैठकको पहिलो 1 घण्टा निर्धारण गर्नेछ। गर्न सक्नेछ होइन सभामुख महोदय, गर्नेछ, गर्नुपर्नेछ भनेको अनिवार्य विषय हो। त्यसैले आज जेठ महिनाको 7 गते भइसक्यो, शून्य समय पनि सक्यो, आकस्मिक समय पनि सक्यो, विशेष समय पनि सक्यो, प्रधानमन्त्रीज्यूको अत्तपत्तो भएन। हामीलाई हिजोसम्म पनि अघि विशेष समय चलिरहँदा पनि के अपेक्षा थियो भने प्रधानमन्त्री आउनुहुन्छ, सम्मान्य सभामुखज्यूले बोलाउनुहुन्छ, हाम्रा कुरा सुन्नुहुन्छ, हाम्रा प्रश्नहरू लिनुहुन्छ भन्ने हामीलाई लागेको थियो। विशेष समय सकिँदा पनि यति सत्र 2-3 चाहिँ चरणमा अगाडि बढ्दा पनि प्रधानमन्त्रीको अत्तपत्तो भएन। त्यसकारण प्रधानमन्त्रीलाई उपस्थित गराइयोस्, यो नियम 56 लाई चाहिँ कार्यान्वयन गरिकन अगाडि बढ्योस् र त्यो नियम 56 कार्यान्वयन नगरिकन हामी चाहिँ सदन अगाडि नबढोस् भन्ने कुरा राख्दै हामी हाम्रो विरोध जारी राख्ने कुरा सम्मान्य सभामुखज्यूलाई अनुरोध गर्न चाहन्छु। धन्यवाद।
मान्य सदस्य आर्यन राईलाई समय दिन्छु। समय 3 मिनटभित्र आफ्नो कुरा राख्नुहोस्। बाँकी मान्य सदस्यहरू बस्नुहोस्।
सम्माननीय सभामुख महोदय, हामीले नीति तथा कार्यक्रममा पनि त्यत्रो लामो समय छलफल गऱ्यौँ। यो सम्मानित सदनको समय बर्बाद हुनु भनेको यो हामी सांसदहरू र यो पार्ला यो हलभित्रको समय बर्बाद हुनु होइन। सिङ्गो देशको विकासको गति रोकिनको निम्ति र सिङ्गो देशको समय बर्बाद हुँदैछ सभामुख महोदय। त्यो नीति तथा कार्यक्रममा सामान्य प्रधानमन्त्री नआउँदाखेरि थुप्रैचोटि चाहिँ यसो पल्टाइयो, हेरियो, चाहिँ प्रतिनिधि सभाको चाहिँ धारा 38 हेरेकै नियमले हेरेकै गरियो। अनि फेरि आज यहाँ चाहिँ आउँदै गर्दाखेरि यत्रो दिन भइसक्यो हामीले हाम्रा कुरा सुनाउनु आएको होइन, जनताको दुःख पीडा विविध समस्याको पोको लिएर आएको छौँ। यो सदनमा हामी खोलिदिन्छौँ। अनि सम्माननीय प्रधानमन्त्रीज्यूलाई पनि उहाँले पनि सुनिदिनु पर्यो, त्यो अनुसारले नीति तथा कार्यक्रम आउनु पर्यो। यहाँ चाहिँ तपाईँको चाहिँ निश्चित काठमाडौँमा बसेर यसो दूरबीन लाएर सुदूरपश्चिम पूर्वतिर हेरेर चाहिँ नीति तथा कार्यक्रम ल्याउनु हुन्न हामीले भनेका हौँ। सरकार त्यसरी अगाडि बढ्नु हुन्न हामीले भनेका हौँ। त्यसो भन्दै रहँदाखेरि यत्रो लामो समयसम्म हामी चाहिँ प्रत्यक्ष अप्रत्यक्ष रूपमा सम्माननीय प्रधानमन्त्रीज्यूको चाहिँ माग गरिरहेका छौँ। आजसम्म यस सम्बन्धी यो सदनमा छल्दै पेल्दै सङ्ख्याको हिसाबमा चाहिँ पेल्दै किसिमको चाहिँ हामी अगाडि बढ्यौँ र आउँदै गर्दाखेरि आज पनि चाहिँ प्रतिनिधि सभाको नियमले 2079 को चाहिँ परिच्छेद 9 को धारा 56सँग सम्बन्धित प्रधानमन्त्री वा निजको कार्यकक्षसँग प्रत्यक्ष रूपमा सम्बन्धित महत्त्वपूर्ण विषयमा प्रश्न सोध्नको लागि सभामुखले प्रत्येक महिनाको पहिलो हप्ताको कुनै एक दिनको बैठकको पहिलो 1 घन्टा निर्धारण गर्ने छ भनिएको छ। अब यो 1 हप्ता गइसक्यो, आज 7 दिन गइसक्यो। अब 12 गते हाम्रो सदन चल्छ, अहिलेसम्म चाहिँ केही छैन। बिहान चाहिँ हाम्रो चाहिँ पार्टीका दलको नेता हर्कराज राईज्यूले पनि चाहिँ प्रश्न कहिले चाहिँ आउनुहुन्छ त प्रधानमन्त्री, केही चाहिँ हामीले चाहिँ यस सम्बन्धी सूचना भए हुन्थ्यो भनेर चाहिँ उहाँले भनिरहनु भएको छ। तर अहिलेसम्म पनि यो सम्मानित सदनबाट चाहिँ यस सम्बन्धी व्यवस्था हुँदाखेरि हामीले साँच्ची नै के लागेको छ भने विधि र नीतिको शासनभन्दा चाहिँ माथि उठेर चाहिँ कता फेरि लोकतन्त्रमाथि नै र चाहिँ अलिकति तपाईँको चाहिँ खतरा आउन थालेको हो कि भन्ने हामीलाई महसुस भएको छ। त्यसै कारणले गर्दाखेरि म अन्तिम हुन चाहन्छु, यो सम्मानित सदनबाट जनताको दुःख पीडाको पोकोहरू हामीले लिएर आएका छौँ, त्यो सुनिदिनको निम्ति सम्माननीय प्रधानमन्त्रीलाई चाहिँ सम्माननीय सभामुख महोदयले चाहिँ रुलिङ गरेर बोलाइदिनको निम्ति अनुरोध गर्न चाहन्छु। धन्यवाद।
माननीय सदस्य युवराज दुलाल 3 मिनटमा आफ्नो कुरा राख्नुहोस्।
सम्माननीय सभामुख महोदय, केही लज्जित र केही दुखित हुँदै म आज यो यही संसदमा सम्माननीय ज्येष्ठ नागरिकबाट हामीले जो शपथ खायौँ यही सभामुख मार्फत त्यसमा नेपालको संविधानप्रति प्रतिबद्ध रहँदै भन्ने वाक्यांश हामीले बोलेरै शपथ खायौँ। नेपालको संविधानको धारा 76(10) मा प्रधानमन्त्री र मन्त्री सामूहिक रूपमा सङ्घीय संसदप्रति उत्तरदायी हुनेछन् र मन्त्री आफ्नो मन्त्रालयको कामका लागि व्यक्तिगत रूपमा प्रधानमन्त्री र सङ्घीय संसदप्रति उत्तरदायी हुनेछन् भन्ने व्यवस्था गरिएको छ भने हामीले यही संविधान अन्तर्गत रहेर बनाइएको नियमावलीको नियम 56(1) मा हरेक महिनाको पहिलो हप्ता प्रश्नोत्तर गर्न सकिने, प्रधानमन्त्रीले त्यो प्रश्नोत्तरमा उठेका प्रश्नहरूको तत्काल जवाफ दिनुपर्ने, सभामुखले बैठकको सुरुमै 1 घन्टाको समय निर्धारण गर्नुपर्ने, कुनै कारणवश त्यो समय निर्धारण गर्न नसके कुन दिन गर्ने भन्ने कुरा स्पष्ट उल्लेख भएको सन्दर्भमा हामी यो संविधान अन्तर्गत रहेर शपथ खाएका जनताद्वारा जनताको प्रतिनिधि भएर निर्वाचित भएर आएका माननीय भनेर सांसदको रूपमा जुन भूमिका हामीले सम्हालिरहेका छौँ र यसरी संविधान र नियमहरू मिचिँदै गर्दाखेरि यसलाई अनदेखा गरेर कसरी अगाडि बढ्न सकिन्छ सभामुख र सभामुख मार्फत सम्पूर्ण मान्य सदस्यहरू, यो गरिमामय सदन यसै गरी सरकारलाई जे कुराहरू सजिलो हुन्छ त्यो कुरामा यो नियमावली लागू गरेर जाने, सरकारलाई जे कुराले छेक्छ त्यो नियमावलीलाई लागू नगरिकन जाने, हामीले यही शिक्षा लिएका हौँ। हाम्रो चेतना यही नै हो। हामीले संविधानप्रति प्रतिबद्ध रहने भनेको यही नै हो। हामी सार्वभौम नेपाली जनतालाई सम्मान गर्ने भनेको यही नै हो। यही गरेर अगाडि जान सकिन्छ सभामुख महोदय, सकिँदैन। त्यस कारणले नियमावली र संविधानको कार्यान्वयन यो संसदमा होस्। धन्यवाद।
माननीय सदस्य खुसबु ओली 3 मिनटमा आफ्नो कुरा राख्नुहोस्।
सभामुख महोदय, मैले धेरै कुरा बताइराख्नु भयो परेन, उहाँहरूले बैठकको नियमावली अनुसार बताइसक्नुभयो। यो सदनमा प्रश्नोत्तर कार्यक्रममा प्रश्न 15 जनाले सोध्न पाइन्छ प्रधानमन्त्रीज्यूलाई महिनाको एकपटक। त्यो 15 जना प्रतिपक्ष मात्रै होइन, सत्ता पक्षको प्रश्नहरू पनि हुन सक्छन्। त्यहाँ सदन छल्दै गर्दा प्रतिपक्षलाई मात्रै छलेको होइन, उहाँले सत्ता पक्षका प्रश्नलाई र सरकारको विषयलाई पनि छलेको हो। त्यही भएर यो सिङ्गो सदन अपेक्षित भएको छ। र प्रधानमन्त्रीज्यूलाई यहाँ खोज्दै गर्दा हामीले सोध्न खोजेका प्रश्न के हो भने, अहिले लिपुलेखको विषय आयो, प्रधानमन्त्रीज्यू राष्ट्रपतिको कार्यक्रमबाट निस्किनु भयो, विषयान्तर भयो। देशमा सुकुम्बासीको विषय आयो, उहाँको पहिरनमा हाम्रो कन्भर्सेसनहरू डाइभर्ट भयो, विषयान्तर निकै हुँदैछ सभामुख महोदय। त्यही भएर यी महत्त्वपूर्ण विषयहरूलाई सम्बोधन गर्नको लागि उहाँसँग केही हाम्रा सोध्नुपर्ने प्रश्नहरू छन्। र प्रश्न सोध्नु भनेको समस्यालाई सम्बोधन र समाधान निकाल्न खोज्नु हो, यो विरोधाभास होइन। प्रधानमन्त्रीज्यूले केही दिन अगाडि अत्यन्तै सुन्दर तस्बिर सार्वजनिक गर्नुभयो, जसमा उहाँले दुग्ध विकास संस्थान जुन राजा महेन्द्रको पालामा स्थापना भएको थियो त्यसलाई प्रमोट गर्नुभयो। अत्यन्त राम्रो कुरा हो। तर हामी उहाँ यहाँ आइदिनु भएको भए के सोध्न चाहन्थ्यौँ भने, आज सदनमा पनि धेरै पटक यो कुरा उठ्यो, 2082 को पौष मसान्तरको अर्धवार्षिक लेखा परीक्षण हेर्दा किसानहरूलाई डिडिसीले 42 करोड दिन बाँकी छ। कैयौँ ठाउँमा 2083 को वैशाख मसान्तसम्म 60 करोड भुक्तानी बाँकी छ। यी समस्याहरू हामी प्रधानमन्त्रीलाई सोध्थ्यौँ, किनभने चिज त हामी पैसा तिरेरै किनेर खान्छौँ, हामीलाई त बाँकीमा दिँदैन। तर डिडिसीले चाहिँ जनताहरूका चाहिँ 60-70 करोड भुक्तानी नै दिएको छैन किसानको। यो विषयहरू हामी यहाँ सोध्न चाहन्थ्यौँ। क्यान्सरका बिरामीहरू, आज स्वयं मेरो भान्जा जसलाई चाहिँ ब्लड क्यान्सर छ, यहाँ नेपालमा कार्बोप्लाटिनको चाहिँ सर्टेज भएको कारणले गर्दा आज भारत उड्नु पर्यो केमोथेरापीको लागि। यो समस्याहरू हामी प्रधानमन्त्री समक्ष राख्न सक्थ्यौँ, किनभने हामीले यहाँ त राखिसक्यौँ, मन्त्रीजीहरूले सुनिसक्नुभयो, सम्बोधन त भएको छैन होइन। त्यही भएर यस्ता विषयहरू छन् जुन प्रधानमन्त्रीको गाम्भीर्यता हामीले खोजेका हौँ। त्यसैले गर्दा यो कुरालाई विरोधाभास वा व्यक्तिगत होइन, आज सत्ता पक्षको मनमा नभएको होइन यो कुरा। उहाँहरू पनि चाहनुहुन्छ प्रधानमन्त्रीज्यू चाहिँ सदनप्रति चाहिँ जवाफदेही हुनुपर्छ भनेर, तर भन्न सक्नुहुन्न। उहाँको शब्दहरू हाम्रो मर्मबाट यहाँहरूले बुझिदिनु पर्यो। त्यसैले गर्दा यसलाई व्यक्तिगत नबनाऊ। नियमावली, नियम ऐन, यो नियमावलीलाई त सत्तापक्षले विशेष कानुन बनाउन खोजेको छ, सङ्घीय कानुनभन्दा माथि राख्न खोजेको छ। अनि यस्तो विशेष कानुनमा लेखिएको परिच्छेद 9 मा लेखिएको कुरा प्रधानमन्त्री आउनुपर्ने, महिनाको एकपटक 15 जनाको उत्तर दिनुपर्ने प्रश्नको भन्ने कुरालाई यहाँ अस्वाभाविक मान्नु चाहिँ गलत हुन्छ। त्यही भएर यहाँ गर्नेछ निर्धारण गर्नेछ सभामुखबाट भनिएको छ, यहाँले रुलिङ गर्नुहोस् भनेर हामी यहाँसँग निवेदन गर्न चाहन्छौँ।
माननीय सदस्यहरू, अब सम्माननीय प्रधानमन्त्री, गृहमन्त्री एवं विज्ञान प्रविधि तथा नवप्रवर्तन मन्त्री बालेन्द्र शाहको तर्फबाट माननीय कानुन, न्याय तथा संसदीय मामिला मन्त्री शोभिता गौतमलाई प्रतिनिधि सभा सदस्य निर्वाचन पहिलो संशोधन विधेयक 2083 माथि विचार गरियोस् भन्ने प्रस्ताव प्रस्तुत गर्न अनुमति दिन्छु।
जनताको सार्वभौम छल हो सभामुख महोदय। यहाँ चाहिँ विपक्षीका आवाजहरूलाई यसरी अनदेखा गर्ने, यसरी दबाउने, यसरी चाहिँ इग्नोर गर्न मिल्छ सभामुख महोदय? यति गम्भीरतापूर्वक उठाइएका नियमावलीमा टेकेर हामीले हिजो अस्ति भन्यौँ सभामुख महोदय, केही बिहानसम्म पनि भन्यौँ, सुन्ने समय सुरु भयो, आकस्मिक समय सुरु भयो, विशेष समय सुरु भयो। हामीलाई लाग्यो आउनुहुन्छ होला सभामुखज्यूले यस विषयमा केही न केही भन्नुहुन्छ होला, किन भन्दा सभामुखज्यू नियमावलीप्रति प्रतिबद्ध हुनुहुन्छ, इमान्दार हुन्छ, यसप्रति जवाबदेही हुन्छ, वफादार हुन्छ भन्ने हामीलाई लाग्यो। तर नियमित प्रक्रिया अगाडि बढिसक्यो, 3 चरण अगाडि बढिसक्यो सदनको। प्रधानमन्त्रीको विषयमा यो 56को चाहिँ नियम 56को विषयमा कुनै पनि कुरा नभएपछि हामीले यस विषयमा आवाज उठाउँदा फेरि यसलाई अनदेखा गरेर अगाडि बढ्न सकिन्छ सभामुख महोदय?
मान्य सदस्यहरू, मान्य सदस्यलाई मैले केही समय अगाडि, मान्य सदस्य ऐन बहादुर महरलाई मैले केही समय अगाडि माइक दिएको थिएँ, समय दिएको थिएँ र यहाँले आफ्नो कुरा राख्नु भएको थियो। त्यस कारणले एकछिन धैर्य गर्नुहोस्। मान्य सदस्यहरू, मान्य सदस्य, मान्य सदस्यहरूले मान्य सदस्यहरू आजको कार्यसूची यहाँहरूलाई जानकारी नै छ। मान्य सदस्यहरूलाई आजको हाम्रो कार्यसूची, सभाको कार्यसूची यहाँहरूलाई जानकारी नै छ। हामीले मान्य सदस्यहरूले राख्नु भएको कुरा मैले सबै विपक्षी दलका मान्य सदस्यहरूलाई समय दिएँ। यहाँहरूले बोल्नुभयो, त्यसमा मेरो ध्यान आकर्षण भयो। त्यस कारणले आज हामी कार्यसूचीमा धेरै हाम्रो चाहिँ विषयवस्तुहरू छ, यसलाई अगाडि बढाउँ। मान्य सदस्यहरू बस्नुहोस्। यहाँहरूले भनेको कुरा, यहाँहरूले सदनमा राख्नु भएको कुरा मेरो ध्यान आकर्षण भएको छ। मान्य सदस्य, मान्य मान्य सदस्यहरूले राख्नुभएको कुरा, सबै विपक्षी बेन्चमा रहनुभएका मान्य सदस्यले राख्नुभएको कुरा मेरो ध्यान आकर्षण भएको छ। त्यसकारणले आज हाम्रो कार्यसूचीमा धेरै कार्यक्रमहरू छ, यहाँहरूलाई जानकारी नै छ। माननीय सदस्य अशोक चौधरी, के यहाँको के नियमापत्ति हो? नियमावलीको कुन नियम? मान्य सदस्यहरू, मैले सभामा मान्य सदस्य, मैले यहाँलाई समय दिएको छैन। मान्य सदस्यहरू, मान्य सदस्य अशोक कुमार चौधरी, आफ्नो कुरा के हो? 1 मिनेटमा राख्नुहोस्।
सम्मान्य सभामुख महोदय, संसदको मर्यादा कायम राख्नु सत्ता पक्षको र प्रतिपक्षको पनि धर्म हो। तथापि जसरी यहाँ प्रतिपक्षमा रहेका मान्य सदस्यहरूले परिषदको 9 दफा 56 का कुरा गरिराख्नु भएको छ, म मान्य सदस्यहरूलाई यो दफा 50 मा भएका कुराहरू म पढेर सुनाउन चाहन्छु। सभामुखले कुनै पनि प्रश्न स्वीकार योग्य छ वा छैन भन्ने कुराको निर्णय गर्नेछ र प्रश्न सोध्ने अधिकारको दुरुपयोग गरिएको वा संविधान वा त्यस नियमावलीको विरुद्ध वा सदनको प्रतिष्ठामा आचाउने वा बैठकको कार्यविधिमा बाधा पर्ने सम्भावना देखेमा त्यस्तो प्रश्नलाई सभामुखले पूर्ण वा आंशिक रूपमा अस्वीकार गर्न सक्नेछ भन्ने प्रावधान रहेको छ। र आजको कार्यसूचीमा यो कार्यसूचीलाई हेर्नको निम्ति म मान्य सदस्यहरूलाई अनुरोध गर्न चाहन्छु। सामान्य प्रधानमन्त्रीज्यूले कानुन न्याय तथा संसदीय मामिला मन्त्रीज्यूलाई जिम्मेवार तोकेर पठाइसकेको छ र यो हाम्रो कार्यसूची अनुसार यहाँ सभामुखको यो प्रश्न स्वीकार योग्य छ वा छैन भन्ने कुराको निर्णय गर्ने अधिकार यसको दफा 4 पनि 50 को 4 पनि उल्लेख गरेको छ। यो कुराहरू म हेर्नको निम्ति म मान्य सदस्यहरूलाई अनुरोध गर्न चाहन्छु। धन्यवाद।
मान्य सदस्यहरू, आजको यो बैठक आजै 15 मिनेटको लागि स्थगित हुन्छ।
A few short months ago, this city, Kathmandu, was in flames after violent street protests. Police fired on demonstrators who'd been marching for a better future. Young people, many of them still in school uniform. The next day, Parliament, the Supreme Court, the Prime Minister's residence, state buildings across the country were razed to the ground. Last month, an election swept a new party into power, pledged to the youth movement's demands. Can it deliver? And what will happen if it doesn't? Welcome to the top of the world, a strip of land sitting between China and India, spread high throughout the Himalayas. Nepal is host to some of the world's greatest mountains. There is much here to love, but many challenges. Nepal is a poor country that's failed to keep up with its fast-developing neighbours. Its government's a revolving door of a constantly recycled political elite. The pent-up resentment of the youth of this young nation was felt in September last year, when 2 days of rioting left dozens dead, state buildings burnt out, and the government with no option but to resign. Elections last month saw an untried party sweep into power with a huge majority, led by a rapper turned politician, the one-time mayor of the capital, Balan, now Prime Minister. Hopes are high that change is coming, and the promises are bold. Jobs for the young, the curbing of corruption, a government that can reform the state. But huge challenges remain for Nepal in an uncertain world. To discuss that future with our audience here in Kathmandu, we have a brilliant panel. Sisir Kanal is an MP for the governing RSP and now serves as Foreign Minister in this new government. Prakash Mahat is a former Finance Minister. His Nepali Congress Party, part of the coalition government at the time of the protests, is now the largest party of opposition. Roxia Bum was one of the leaders in the mass protests last year. She's now the coordinator of a youth group called the Gen Z Front. And Mandira Sharma is a human rights advocate and the Asia and Pacific Region Director of the International Commission of Jurists. Your panel. Let's go straight to our first question, and it comes from Abhirab Khanal.
Hello everyone, my name is Avinav Khanal. And my question is all to the panelists. So do you think the lack of proper institutional reform of Nepal police led to the September 8th protest? Will the new government just arrest the then political and bureaucratic leadership, or also conduct institutional reform to avoid this in the future?
Thank you very much indeed. Just a quick reference back. Those youth protests in September the 8th last year became very violent. At least 76 people were killed, 2,500 people, and estimated, were injured, and they led within days to the downfall of the government. There are many demands for justice. The Prime Minister and the Home Secretary have been arrested in the last few days. The Supreme Court ordered their release. The question is about the lack of proper institutional reform of Nepal police and whether that led to the violence and the deaths of September the 8th. Foreign Minister Sisir Kanal.
The question Mr. Kanal raises here is of very importance. I do personally agree that lack of institutional reform definitely did contribute to what happened on September 8th and 9th, and that's not an isolated incident. Just if you go back a few months back in mid-April of last year also, there were some indication that our crowd control mechanisms are not working as they should have. And I feel that then government and government leadership failed to take lessons from that of April incidents. And if you look at other isolated incident of protest, how Nepal police have reacted to that also shows that huge lack of capacity, lack of resources, lack of training, and lack of chain of command working in the time of stress. I mean, as a representative of government today, we take those issues very, very seriously, and part of our government work would definitely be building institutional capacity of our security forces.
Thank you very much indeed. Mandira Sharma, lawyer and human rights activist.
Thank you very much for this question. This is not the first time that we experience violence by the police in the street that caused the death. We have several incidences in the past as well. We have been asking for the investigations and accountability on those deaths, torture in detention, and so on and so forth. But none of these cases have been investigations. So that's why I fully agree that police reform should be the priority of the government.
Thank you very much indeed. Prakash Mahat, former finance minister.
Actually, what happened in Earth is a total failure of the government. Political leadership at the government failed to see what is going to happen that day. So it was unfortunate that that demonstration reached to the gate of, Parliament, which could be avoided easily. But at the same time, those who encourage even the political parties now in power, some of the leaders themselves, taking those innocent kids, young people. So nothing will happen. Why don't you enter into the Parliament? That was also should be taken into account by this commission. So I think that the commission is totally biased, and the way now present government is, taking this issue is also totally biased.
Thank you very much indeed. Nearly everyone in this room will have experienced one way or another, or known about one way or another, the demonstrations on September the 8th and 9th. The audience beyond may not. They were truly terrifying scenes on both days. Very young people being killed and very badly injured. 3 police officers also being killed on the day, and on the day afterwards, very substantial destruction of property across the city and the country. Raksha Bam, you were there and you were part of the organisation of the protests. You might wish to address the point made by Prakash Mahat, but first of all, if you would, the questioner asks about the police and the actions on that day and whether or not they were part of the problem that led to spiralling violence.
Thank you so much for the question. Going back to September 8, it always feels like it is giving me a trauma to remember that day. I agree with all the panelists, it is because of failure of political leadership and failure of security leadership that day. Because I know our part of the story. That day, it's around 9 a.m., we met some of the security personnel. And we told them that if there is something happened, we will let you know, and you can come after that and take people in charge if some people would create some problem here. So they took us as granted at the time, and they didn't have enough materials to protect us. Instead of that, they started firing. So yeah, I agree with him. Political leadership as well, failure of political leadership as well as security leadership brought that problem.
Thank you very much indeed. Can I go back to our questioner, if we still have a microphone near Awarab? You asked about reform of the police. What do you think?
I believe that every time Nepal has gone through these phases, we have only persecuted or set up commissions to change the head. I don't think changing the head will solve our problem. Nepal police as an institution has stood there since protests were basically illegal, right? So, but we have not accounted for it to be able to exist in a place where protests are legal and it is our right to protest.
Thank you very much for your contribution. We appreciate it very much. Thank you. Let's hear from the audience, if we could, on this. Over here, thank you.
Namaste, my name is Sahana Bajacharya. There are certain numbers that I'd like to present here. In less than 24 hours, 34 bodies were brought to the teaching hospital in the forensic medicine department. Out of those, 10 bodies had headshots, died by headshots, 18 chest shots, 4 stomach shots, and 2 in the neck. None of the bodies came with bullets that were below their waist. It was all targeted. So until and unless I think we get a question on how these orders are passed down when it comes to crowd control in Nepal, I think we will always have a lot of questions.
Thank you, madam, over there in the white blouse.
My name is Shivani Mishra. Despite the numbers, we should remember that the sitting Prime Minister at the time did not resign on September 8th. We should keep that at the back of the mind when we think about whatever ensued on the morning of September 9th. The Prime Minister had not resigned by then, despite the number of people who were killed on September 8th.
Thank you very much indeed. Let us move straight on to our next question, and it comes from Banu Dabadi.
I'm Bhanu Dabadi from Mentor Lab, working on mentoring to empower individual and enterprises.
Thank you, sir.
So my question is, do you have any vision, strategies, and plans in reversing of the exodus of Nepali youth? Any timeline when it's going to start, when our people will come back to rebuild the country?
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for the question. A question about the huge numbers of Nepali people, generally men, who leave the country to work abroad, very often in the Gulf, in the Middle East. Around 14% of the population works overseas. Around a third of households receive remittances from those workers. And on average, it's around 2,300 people every day leave Nepal to work and to find jobs that pay considerably better than many jobs here in the country. Raksha Ban, the question was about Nepali youth, of whom you are one. I mean, you must have friends, I presume, who at least talk about leaving or leave themselves. What is it that can be done to keep them in Nepal?
As a Nepali youth, what I think is me, along with my friends, including my friends, we don't see our future in Nepal because there is no jobs, right? And it's very difficult to find a job. There are jobs, but it's very, very difficult to find the jobs because, our country is, comparatively poor than other countries, and we are third world countries, and we depends on other countries, like from the dress, from the clothes what we wear, and the items that we use in kitchens are imported. So I also want to know the visions that this new government could really bring and make our youth very much comfortable to think about their future in our own country.
Have you had friends? Do you have friends who have left? Do they talk about leaving?
Yeah, many of my friends are leaving, and many of my friends have left. But luckily, or I don't know, I don't think to leave this country. But yeah, very few of my friends are here.
Really?
Yeah.
That many have left. It must be very sad.
Yeah, very sad. Yeah. And this is the story of every house in Nepal.
Thank you. Prakash Mahat, you were finance minister. You must have grappled with this issue when you were in office, and it must be of enormous concern to you. Is there a vision for getting Nepalis to stay?
There is a problem of employment. There is no doubt about that. It is also true that a lot of younger people are leaving the country for the purpose of education, but ultimately they wanted to settle there. And at the same time, many youth go to Gulf, Malaysia, Korea, like that, for work. Some are moving because of the lack of opportunity, but some are moving because they want better opportunity. Because teachers are leaving. Why they are leaving? Will they become teacher in US or England or Gulf? No. They are ready to take lower job. So they want better opportunity, perceived or real.
Thank you very much. I'm going to move on, if I may, to Mandira Chamba. The question about when it might stop this flow of young people.
One of the ways through which we can create more jobs is really exploring areas where we could potentially create more jobs. And this has been discussed a lot in the context of Nepal, saying that, we need to reform agriculture, we have to reform or bring more opportunities in hydropower, tourism. There is no scarcity of ideas where we can create more jobs, but things have not done. Why things have not done? One of the reasons is because of the weak rule of law. To have any investors to come in, invest, you need trust. The trust, functioning rule of law, so people or investors think that I would get remedies if my rights are violated. There is rule-based system. It's not someone decides. And we should also address corruptions. If you have to pay in every single steps when you have to go to register your company or to run any business in this country, who would come and invest and help us to create more jobs?
Thank you very much indeed. Sister Kunal, this is your problem now. You have promised to create 1.2 million jobs and to double the size of the economy. How are you going to do that? How are you going to bring these young people home and stop young people leaving?
Almost every year, about 500,000 young people come to job market in Nepal. And as a country, we barely create about 30 to 60,000 jobs any given year. So the rest would have to find jobs elsewhere. What will RSP do? What will our government do is what we have already said. One is we'll work on good governance. There are two aspects of good governance. One is a very strong anti-corruption stand, investigating old corruption scandals. Second is to make business processes easier. If somebody wants to develop a hydro in Nepal, they have to go to 27 different institutions before they start even digging the foundation. We really have to unleash our potential. Basically, there are a few sectors that we want to focus: tourism, infrastructure development, hydropower or energy sector. We also have low capital in this country. So our tax bases are very, very low.
Can I just ask you particularly about the pledges you made, pledges that were clearly very popular and helped you get this enormous majority? Where on earth do you find 1.2 million jobs if you're generating, what, 30 to 60,000 jobs a year at the moment? I mean, 1.2 million.
If we think of governance as how we have thought in the past, it'd be very difficult. That's what I'm saying. We need to fundamentally rethink about how do we create investment opportunity in Nepal. And what we're thinking of is if we can only grow Nepal's economy by about 7% in real terms, Nepal's economy could be doubled. Per capita income could be doubled in 10 years. So if we can achieve that target, we'll be able to create 1.2 million jobs.
Thank you very much indeed. I want to hear from the audience if I can. We've got a lot of young people here. I want to hear from them. First of all, can I hear from Banu, who asked the question?
I'm not at all convinced by what panelists have said. So a lot of misdeeds of past contributes to this exodus. Fixing it will take some time, so we are hopefully waiting for the new government to work.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Now I saw a lady over there, yes.
Hi, my name is Pritika Century, and I'm speaking on behalf of youth. I do not completely agree to most of the things. The reason that youth leave is because not just of the opportunities, but also because of the recognitions. The only time the youth were taken seriously in this country was after the Gen Z protests. So yeah, that would be from my side. And
thank you very much indeed. Thank you. I've got a gentleman right at the back in a dark T-shirt.
I want to agree with Mandira ji and say that rule of law is necessary for Nepal. But that cannot be achieved without strengthening our court systems, right? Our government, in its 100 action point plan, focuses heavily on economy. But where are the plans to actually reform the criminal justice system?
Thank you very much, sir. I see a lady over there.
So when we are talking about youth leaving the country, one thing that has been missed out is that currently in Nepal, almost 700 youths every day are being sent by the manpower agency. So their visas, their passports are being taken and they are seized. They can't come back to the country. And especially most of them are also victims of trafficking. So this migration and trafficking issue should also be considered when you're talking about youths leaving the country.
Thank you very much, madam. Let's move on. Our next question comes from Shreya.
Hi, I'm Shreya Ghimire. So I'm getting married in April, 2 weeks from today. And my question is, should I plan a honeymoon in May, or is the war going to get really bad by then? Please help a girl figure it out.
Thank you very much indeed, and many, many congratulations on your engagement and your marriage. I'm delighted for you, and I'm sure the panel and the audience are as well. There is a very serious background to this, what is called here in Nepal the war in West Asia, what many others call the conflict in Iran, or the US and Israel attack on Iran, is ongoing. As we record this show, we are waiting for the deadline set by President Trump to run out. It is hours away at the time of recording. By the time of transmission, we'll know something of what has transpired. I'm going to ask you the impossible question, if I may. Mandira Sharma, how long is this war going to last?
If I could, I would say now, right now. Yeah, it's very unfortunate that we are in this era where we have been witnessing several wars at the same time. We are also very, very concerned that the old order, the international law regime that was developed after the horror that we witnessed in Second World War is being forced to collapse. There are several attempts to undermine this system. There are several, I think, attempts to undermine the whole human rights, rule of law regime as well. And it's a threat globally. Unfortunately, it is not our war. We didn't start this. We didn't support this. But we are also suffering. Look at the price hike that we have been facing every day. Look at our people who are working in Gulf countries. They are also being affected. International law is very clear. This war is not according to international law that we have studied, that we have developed. But unfortunately, we are now entering into the era where might seems to be right.
Thank you. Prakash Mahat, former finance minister, former foreign minister. When you look at the war, do you think this goes on for months?
The way the power centers are behaving, you never know. It may end soon, or it may get prolonged, but world will suffer. Nepal is also going to suffer for two main reasons. Firstly, we have large number of people working in Gulf region, and many are already losing jobs, and they are insecure, no doubt about that. Even if they wanted to come back, we have very limited capacity. So I think we are going to be affected in so many ways.
Thank you very much indeed. Rukshabam.
First of all, congratulations on your wedding. From the younger generation of this country, we really want to, tell the world community and to the world leaders that first be the humanitarian leaders. Like we don't want to see your dangerous weapon. We want to experience peace now, because we have seen it all on September 8 and 9. And now the only thing we want is peace. Our globe is one home. We could be happy when there is a war in one room of a house and there is peace in one room, because this whole world is one home for us. We are global citizens right now.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. Foreign Minister, countries in the region have been part of the mediation process Pakistan in particular. And you must have high hopes, or some hopes at least, that a ceasefire may emerge. But the question was about the longevity of this war. Can you address that?
Let me also congratulate Shreya. As a government, and I'm sure I go all the panelists, we want to see the earliest possible resolution and peaceful resolution to this conflict. Even though bombs might be falling very far away from us, it hits us very at the core in Nepal. We've lost one Nepali already in UAE. About 28 are injured. Hundreds of people were unable to fly back home when the airspace was closed. We are very aware of a multifold impact it would have. It has a macroeconomic impact. Our remittance could be affected if the war goes on for a long time and it deteriorates. We may have to run a rescue operation in a scale that would require us to bring almost 2 million Nepali citizens. So the kind of challenges we're facing definitely are very, very daunting. But we're very mindful of those, and we're looking into, if the actually government formed a committee under my leadership to look into the multiple impact this war would have in Nepal. So what I'm saying is the challenges are daunting. We are assessing those challenges, and we are being proactive to try to address those.
Do you, and I hate to put you on the spot, but I mean, the question was about how long this war lasts. Do you have any thoughts? I mean, do you believe it could be over in a matter of days? Do you think it is more likely this will last weeks? Or do you have, as so many other people do you have no idea?
I don't think anybody in the world has any idea.
No. I very rarely make a suggestion myself when it comes to these kinds of programs, Shaya, but I do have an idea for your honeymoon, because I know of a country of astonishing beauty with breathtaking landscapes and some of the most welcoming people in the world. Have you thought of taking your honeymoon in Nepal? I'm afraid that's it for World Questions Nepal. A huge thank you to this month's panel. Thanks also to our wonderful questioners and all the contributors to our debate here at the Mandala Theatre in downtown Kathmandu. And of course, thanks to everyone watching all around the world. Until next time, goodbye.
Dr. Shashi Tharoor, who is MP member from Lok Sabha, to on the stage. Then Tejaswi Surya, who is also MP from Lok Sabha, to call on the stage. Annamalai, who is former Tamil Nadu BJP representative. And our Samyukta Srivastava, who is going to moderate this panel. It's your floor.
Hello, everyone. I know a lot of people have been waiting for this panel, so very, very honored to be able to interact with you all today. So today's session is framed around 3 themes. So we go into identity, growth, and then governance. And I think everyone is excited to get into it. So we will jump in. So we've come from quite a tumultuous time in India's politics. We've seen a very fascinating set of elections in various states. There have been debates around delimitation. So my first question is addressing the question of identity. Shashi ji, you recently posted about the Kerala story, the true Kerala story, and that you say is rooted in Nehruvian secularism. And Tejasvi ji, you and Annamalai ji often have criticized this view, saying that it is a one-way secularism and antithetical to your ideas of Hindutva as a binding framework. Annamalai ji, you've also been very vocal of your criticism of linguistic politics, specifically in Tamil Nadu. And so we do see a confluence of identity and identity debates that are going on in India. So my question to the 3 of you, and I'll start with Shashi ji and then move to Tejasvi ji and then Annamalai ji, is what principles do you prioritize to hold India together if these different identities come into tension? And what are you willing to compromise, possibly, in order to preserve this national cohesion?
Well, I'm not sure that any compromise is necessary, in the sense that what we have been able to demonstrate in Kerala over a couple of thousand years is that the formula is simply living together and accepting each one for who we are, which is very much the formula that Swami Vivekananda preached so effectively when he said that Hinduism has taught him that we're not just about tolerance, but about acceptance. And I think that's a very, very important distinction. Because tolerance is at bottom a rather patronizing idea. It sort of seems to say, I have the truth, you are in error, but I will magnanimously indulge you in your right to be wrong. That's all tolerance is. Whereas acceptance, which is what Vivekananda taught, is essentially saying, I believe I have a truth, you believe you have a truth, I'll respect your truth, please respect my truth. And I think that has been the absolutely perfect formula that we in Kerala have practiced since time immemorial. It's interesting, for example, that the only Jewish diaspora in the entire world that has never known an instance of anti-Semitic persecution from the local population was the one that came to India. Acceptance, again, was the story. Similarly, when St. Thomas came shortly after Christ's birth, he's one of the disciples of Christ. He was again accepted in Kerala. I must admit he was murdered in Tamil Nadu, but that's another story. Annamalai, no doubt, wasn't in the IPS in those days. And then you also have Islam coming to Kerala, not by the sword as the North Indians have their chip on the shoulder historically. In Kerala, we had Arabs coming to trade with us for 1,000 years before the Prophet. They would come when the winds were favorable across the Arabian Sea, settle in Kerala, marry locally, trade locally, and when the winds changed, they would go back. And this went on literally for centuries. And so people we were familiar with, we were used to seeing coming and going, they brought the news of Islam as news. And one of our kings, Cheruman Perumal, was so fascinated to hear about this prophet that he organized a flotilla to sail off to the Arabian Peninsula to meet the prophet. And most of the ships didn't make it. They got stranded in Maldives or Lakshadweep or wherever, but he apparently did. And one of the visual evidences of his visit is the fact that even today, south of Salalah in Oman, there are Kerala coconut trees growing there, which are not native to the Arab Peninsula. Now, the result of all of this was that people basically learned to live together. And when, for example, the Muslim community first, sometime around 780, 712 or so, about the same time that Muhammad bin Qasim was attacking Sindh, in Kerala, when they were numerous enough that they needed a place to pray, they went to the Zamorin, and the Zamorin said, fine, there's a disused temple, you can have it. And to this day, the oldest mosque outside the Arab world is in Kodungalur in Kerala. It's gone through multiple renovations, so obviously it doesn't look like whatever it did way back in 700 AD, but there's still a gigantic traditional Kerala lamp at the entrance to the temple. Now, this is the way in which, to the mosque, and this is the way in which communities have lived together for a very long time in Kerala. And I believe that's the area that I particularly wouldn't want to compromise on. So what are the principles? Very simply coexistence. And the logic, I've often said to my BJP friends, I don't understand why you would demonize and alienate and offend 200 million people in our country. Because even whatever you may feel or whatever your justifications may be, it's also unwise. Because all you need is 1% of them to feel that they have no stake in this society anymore because they're being made to feel so completely as outsiders or as others. Just 1%, and your country becomes ungovernable. Do you really want to do this? It's foolish. It's far better to embrace than to alienate, far better to unite than to divide. And that is a principle on which I don't see any room for compromise.
A very good morning to all of you. And on this philosophical positioning of Shashiji, there is nothing for us to disagree at all. And this, in fact, has been the inherent cultural, civilizational strength of this country. The examples that you gave historically has always demonstrated the fundamental civilizational spirit of what we call Hindu Dharma. And the political disagreement comes when the state starts addressing or approaching certain sections not as individuals, but starts offering special treatment on the basis of a particular community's religion. And that is what the Constitution also abhors. Now, there was a recent scheme announced by the Karnataka government, which wanted to fund development of particular areas and assigned a particular budget for minority colonies. Now, that makes us ask this very fundamental question as to what is this concept of minority colonies? Now, if the country got divided on the basis of religion in 1947, and post that we decided there should not be any discrimination on the basis of majority and minority, then what on earth is Minority Colony Development Fund? Isn't this the state actively promoting ghettoization? Isn't the state sponsoring alienation of a particular community on the basis of religion. This is what the Bharatiya Janata Party and this is what secularists in the true sense or the constitutionalists in the true sense oppose. And if you put some kind of an opposition to these kind of policies, then the nature of the political conversation in India has unfortunately gotten so perverse that those who oppose this and ask for constitutional equality are branded as communal. Now this is where we are having a fundamental problem. So, which is why I want to reiterate, Shashiji, that at the philosophical level, at the philosophical level, there is absolutely nothing to oppose, because what you said has been the position of Vivekananda, and that is the position of the Bharatiya Janata Party. And it took enormous amount of effort for the last 12 years to re-establish in the birthplace of Swami Vivekananda his own principles, and after the Bengal election results, finally we are seeing the resurgence of the same fundamental principle. I want to add just one point. The Constitution of India, with the exception of certain social and economic discrimination for certain communities, which is again on the basis of economic and social backwardness, does not constitutionally allow for religion-based segregation. Now, when a former Prime Minister said that the first right on the country's resources will be by a certain community because of the religion, then that is a fundamental problem and that is unconstitutional. All we are asking is treat all Indian citizens as individuals and do not treat them on the basis of community groupings.
I think I have to clarify that because I actually know that former Prime Minister and he's a wonderful man. The point he was making was that this particular minority is disproportionate. If you look at all the other communities in India, we broadly have the same amount, same percentage of affluent people, middle class people, poor people, etc. everywhere. Education similarly and so on. The Muslim community in India, partially as a legacy of partition when a lot of the middle class and the affluent left for Pakistan, is disproportionately poor, disproportionately undereducated, disproportionately inadequately represented. So you've got a situation where you have a Muslim population in many parts of India, particularly North India. This is not less true in our part of the country, but in northern India, it is genuinely true that there are many places where, in terms of their population, they are poorer, more illiterate, more, shall we say, overrepresented in the prisons and underrepresented in the services, the police, the administration, and so on. So, actively giving some support. Now, let me give you an example. I can give you an example, Anamale, from the British. The British had the same problem with a lot of the migrants on the subcontinent, the later vintage of migrants, not the professional classes from the subcontinent. And so they specifically started courses offering, and this is because of the underrepresentation of South Asians in the British police. They started offering specific training courses only for minorities in London so that these minorities could qualify to join.
Shashiji, absolutely agree. The one question that needs to be asked is, who was ruling for 65 years? The same secular champions. And it was because of these secular champions, I mean, it is a report card of your own governance. And you came to power on the claim that you represent or want to give special preference to this very section. So I think at the constitutional level, at the Hindu philosophical level, I'm in absolute agreement with you. In the premise of its practice at the political level, how it has been practiced, at that dimension, we have a fundamental disagreement, and our position is what the founding makers of the Constitution of India have. Thank you.
Annamalai ji, would love to hear your thoughts, and also please do comment on Tamil Nadu politics, because we have a lot of people in our comments who really want to hear about this.
I think we all know the great Shashi Tharoor is a very erudite politician, no doubt about that. He is trying to manufacture a controversy in Stanford, adding to the confusion that is happening in Kerala Congress for the Chief Minister's election. What happened in 60s, 70s and 80s and 90s, and that is a manifestation that happened in 2000, be it the job and be it anything. And now putting all the blame on the BJP government, which came to power much later in all the North Indian states and different parts of our country, is unfair in my personal opinion. If you ask me, the southern states which Congress claims is a different part of our country, and every time Congress wins one state in the southern part of our country, one Congress MP will immediately tweet, South is different, Tamil Nadu is different, Kerala is different, Telangana is different, Andhra is different. And this is for all the Congress MPs who, Shashi Tharoor is also a very close friend to many of those MPs, those belong to Tamil Nadu. They have to understand, a Congress still now in Tamil Nadu, which was parroting the DMK's language for the last many, many years, one night they changed to Vijay. One night, overnight they changed. And even chameleon will not change the colors that fast. Overnight, within 24 hours they changed the colors. And now they want to sit separate from DMK. That clearly shows Congress neither takes a position. It always piggybacks on a party which is in power, a regional party. It adapts to the regional party's tune, it speaks their language. And nobody here disputes the fact India is one country. Nobody here disputes the fact that we want to divide people on religion. Nobody disputes it. And especially in Kerala, if you look at it, is also equally happy after 10 years they have come back to power now. And what were they doing for 10 years? What were they doing for 10 years? When Shashi Tharoor opposes SIR, when he thinks SIR is a mechanism invented by the BJP party through the Election Commission of India to disenfranchise some more person. Is there one person in our country, one person in the country, as he said in the last 6 months, I'm a genuine voter, somebody has taken away my vote.
34 lakh people have appealed in Bengal alone.
Tamil Nadu, 97 lakh people, Tamil Nadu. Has one person come out and said that they have taken a genuine voter out? And they keep going after one person in tribunal that happens in West Bengal with not even a proper document, bring them to the national media, keep talking again and again about SIR. That is the unfortunate part. India's moved, but Congress unfortunately is stuck in 1960. India's moved on. A new generation wants a very positive set of politics, development-oriented politics. We all respect Shashi Tharoor, a kind of erudite person, well-learned person, a person who has served in United Nations, a person who has always kept India's pride and prestige very high. But when he also starts to speak the Congress party's language, that is where we always have a problem.
And now just on the record of the SIR, what I have said, the legitimate questions to answer. Look at the Bengal case. 91 lakh names were struck off the rolls. Of those, 34 lakh living human beings have appealed, saying that they are around and they are legitimately entitled to vote. The rules have required each case to be adjudicated individually. So only a few hundred were adjudicated before the vote. To this day, there are some 31, 32 lakh people who might be found to have been legitimate voters in the remaining years while the adjudication carries on, but they have missed their chance to vote. And the BJP won Bengal by a margin of 30 lakh votes. Now you tell me, is that entirely fair and democratic? This is the question that I ask. It's honestly, I have no problem with deleting spurious, deleted, absent, migrated voters. And particularly in Kerala, I suspect the Congress benefited from the deletions because the CPM was long a past master of double enrollment, triple enrollment, quadruple enrollment, the same people in 4 different booths and so on. That used to happen. And so they were eliminated by the SIR. And as you said, in Kerala and Tamil Nadu, there were very few appeals. But in Bengal, there is no doubt there were 34 lakh appeals. And that's 34 lakh forms filled by 34 lakh individuals. And of that, only a few hundred have been heard. So you might find a situation a couple of years from now that it turns out that most of these people are found to be genuine, and unfortunately, they've missed their opportunity to vote, and there's been a profound transformation as a result of that demographic change or that electoral roll change. That's the question. I'm not disagreeing with much of what you and Tejasvi have said, though I will disagree about some things when Tejasvi scores the political point about 65 years the Congress was in power. When Dr. Manmohan Singh made the statement you objected to, he was saying precisely because we haven't tried any sort of affirmative action of this nature for the minorities, they're still stuck in this kind of ghetto, and therefore we need some program to try and push them up. That's what he was saying. you're right, he got shouted down, and certainly you all were particularly vociferous on the subject. But I will say, Tejasvi, with the greatest regard for both you, Tejasvi and I traveled together on this Operation Sindhu delegation. Personally, I have a lot of regard for him and friendship for him, but I will say that this business of alienation comes from a lot of people who are not politically Congress or anything in particular, but who have just felt that somehow in recent years, in the last decade in particular, the kind of othering that has taken place of them from the official rhetoric spouted at the very highest levels of our government, ministers and politicians, has been profoundly alienating. And I've heard this spoken with a lot of sadness, not by firebrands or radicals or potential terrorists, to use the kind of language that we hear from the BJP, just from regular folks who said, you know, this is my country, my ancestors' bones have been buried in the soil for so many centuries. Why do they make me feel as if I don't belong here? And for that, there is no real answer. It's very much a chip on the shoulder that goes back to partition. And I would agree totally with them that partition was the original sin. Once you put this poison in that you are different because of your religion, you can't blame the other side for also saying, okay, in that case, you are different because of your religion. But those who stayed in India did not subscribe to that. And that's where I feel you guys are making a mistake in taking the line you're taking.
Samyukta, I think it is my duty to clarify on the SAR part in Bengal because I was in charge of the party for about 6-7 states for the SAR process. So we should put it on record so that people should know, not get misguided. And Bengal is a very peculiar case compared to the rest of the India. Kerala, no issues. Tamil Nadu, no issues. Lakshadweep, no issues. Uttar Pradesh, no issues. Madhya Pradesh, no issues. Chhattisgarh, no issues. All the 12 states that happened in the phase 2 of the SIR. Now why Bengal? Bengal is a very special case. Over the last 10-15 years, if you look at the Form 6, which is a way for a voter to get added, a rampant distribution of Form 6. In the Trinamool Congress government, anybody can just walk in, generate an Aadhaar card, using an Aadhaar card, generate a ration card, submit a Form 6 that gets documented somewhere into the government system. When the SAR happens 10 years later, you claim that it is already documented 8 years before because somebody has given you a fake Form 6 and some Tahsildar has taken and put it on the system. Now that is why for Bengal, the Supreme Court has said there is a special clause. The special clause is a logical clause. If you claim your age is 24, 20 years later, what was your age? Please prove your parent was here, your grandparents were here. So let us not confuse all those things. So Bengal is a Supreme Court monitored SIR process. Adequate number of time is given. Let Shashi Tharoor is free to have his own opinion, but we believe it was a very fair process done by the Election Commission of India. But coming to the Tamil Nadu part, which you asked in the first instant, which I failed to answer, Tamil Nadu is a black swan event. It happens, and it's a good thing that happened. And just like the startups here, and a rupturing of the system has to happen at some point of time. The system got overloaded too much, and national parties were also not very bold to go beyond Vindhyas and take the bull by its horn. And they had this kind of a trepidation to go on. And the weight was too much at the top, and Dravidian political parties and language model and national parties were also afraid this is the way to go because you want to deviate from the norm. The regional parties, the so-called partners were with you. They thought you were taking the wrong route. And I believe it's a good thing that happened for Tamil Nadu, a rupturing that happened, a black swan event. Now we are there to go and clear it in the next 5-10 years. We will do the clearance. So that is not a big thing. And I always welcome it. I'm very clear from day one. And a person who has done 9 political meetings and a person who's a superstar, on top of it promising 2,500 rupee per vote, on top of it promising 1 sovereign gold, on top of it promising 1 gold, 1 silk saree, on top of it promising agriculture loan waiver, on top of it promising everything.
Yeah, I would like to actually,
so it's a good thing that happened, but whether it's a right thing that happened, so that only 5 years later we will say, but it is important, very matured, established political parties, they can go inside and do the clearance 5 years from now, what is going to happen in Tamil Nadu.
Actually, yes, I'd like to ask all three of you to comment on the politics.
On the SIR, I just have one more point to add. All the 5 states that went to elections had this SIR exercise. And by the very own admission of the Congress party, with the exception of Bengal, there was no large-scale appeals of the nature that we faced in West Bengal. Now, why did this happen in West Bengal? There has been a concerted effort over the last couple of decades to actually create and foster vote banks by including those who are not citizens of India to become part of the country's electoral rolls. I was in West Bengal for almost 2 weeks campaigning in the border areas. There is an engineered attempt at actually creating, nurturing vote banks. And if the argument of the opposition is that citizens of a different country must also be eligible to vote in India, then we will oppose that tooth and nail. The Constitution does not permit for this, the BJP will not permit for that. Therefore, the exercise had to be conducted. And this is not the first time that SIR was conducted. The Congress party has conducted SIR multiple times earlier. But if the Congress does it, the SIR is fine. If the BJP does it, the SIR is not fine. This is the problem.
I'd like to switch gears a little bit. I know this debate we could probably take on for another 3 hours, and I know everyone's really enjoying it. But I want to switch to something the three of you actually are in agreement about. So that's the question of urban governance. So Tejasvi ji, you've spoken a lot about your plan for Bengaluru's in terms of waste management and improving infrastructure. Annamalai ji, you've spoken a lot about the management of flooding specifically in Tamil Nadu and some of the policies you disagree with on that track. And Shashi Tharoor ji, you've spoken a lot about air quality in India, and I'm sure that's a concern for many young citizens who are here who want to go back to India and work for the country. So in that order, I'd like to ask you all, what if, let's say, this is a safe space, what would be the one thing you would do, minus any if you could wave a wand and do one thing that you think would improve urban governance in India and solve some of these infrastructural challenges, what do you think would be your top? I'll start with Tejasvi ji and then we'll...
Yeah. Well, in the keynote, Arvind Panigaria ji made a mention about how urbanization can actually unlock a great economic potential for India. And I think in the coming decades, India needs to make concerted effort at not only a series of big bang urban municipal reforms, but also really building world-class cities. Now, I'll give you an example. I was in Tokyo a couple of months ago to study their public transportation, and we had a conversation with the mayor of Osaka. Now, there was a suggestion that came that Bengaluru and Osaka must come up with a sister city agreement. The consequential question was, now who should the mayor of Osaka talk to in Bangalore?
Very good point.
Now, this may come as a surprise to many, of course, not for the Bengalurians sitting here. The last 7 years, we don't have a functional corporation in Bengaluru. We don't have a mayor in Bengaluru. In the last 6 years. And this is not the case with just Bengaluru. This is a case with many, many urban municipalities and cities in the country, because the 73rd, 74th Amendment that was carried out to the Indian Constitution, empowering our municipal and urban local bodies, did not truly, in the true sense of the Constitution or the spirit, empower financially, politically our urban local bodies. I remember Shashi ji had also piloted a private members bill in the parliament to actually strengthen the electoral and political and financial empowerment of the urban local bodies. I think that is a fundamental problem. Bengaluru, a city of 1.5 crore people, in the last 7 years has been administered by 2 bureaucrats. Now, that is a fundamental problem. Second, I think flowing from that, we need to address a lot of urban municipal governance issues, because unless you have an effective city government which is elected by the people and accountable to the people and has its financial and political empowerment in the right sense, they will not be empowered to actually create outcomes, whether it is pure, get better water, better air quality, none of this can be done. And there is, even when there is governance, decentralization that happens, most of otherwise municipal functions, in which in many other countries are with the municipality, are mostly with the state governments in the country. So unless that devolution further happens, there is, we have very limited institutional capacity to effect changes in the city. The last point on this is, I met a couple of people from Bangalore and everybody were mentioning about the traffic jams, etc., etc. Like it's become such a cliche conversation to have. One of the fundamental things that we need to do in India to address this problem is to move away from the American model of each man owning a private vehicle. It doesn't work in the Indian context. We need to heavily invest on public transport systems, move people and not cars. And unless we empower our institutions, our municipal institutions, with the talent who can actually have this, urban engineers, transportation engineers, this will not move. I had actually raised a question in Parliament to ask how many municipal corporations in the country have qualified urban engineers, traffic engineers as part of the planning in cities. We have single digits. So how can we build world-class cities if we don't have these systems and these kind of human resources in place? So I think that is a comprehensive reform. If there's one magic wand that we would want to do, is to strengthen city governments. That is what we should do in India.
Let me chip in on this because it's wonderful that Tejasvi and I agree 100%. I'll even claim credit that he's agreeing with me because I've been saying this for 15 years. And I introduced a private member's bill that would actually do precisely what Tejasvi is also advocating. So I hope that when they make him a minister, he will push this through the cabinet because my bill is sitting ready for passage as long as the government is willing to adopt it. Bottom line is this, and it started off when I learned that if a business wants to open up in China, they would simply go to a city or town mayor. And that individual has the authority to approve the business proposal, to allocate the land, to give the electricity, the road connections, the access to the ports, and of course, being China, even to decide how many workers and how the workers would be paid and tell them to behave and cooperate. It was an astonishing level of power. Whereas if the same business guy comes to an Indian mayor, he'll discover the Indian mayor is the glorified chairman of a powerless committee, that the Indian mayor has absolutely no authority in any of this, has no budgetary control over anything, that the municipal corporation consists of councillors who also have no power. They chair committees which have, again, no budgetary authority and no clout. And the real power rests in an IAS officer called the municipal commissioner who reports to the chief minister of the state, and therefore de facto, the city is a toothless body and the mayor has no significance. This wasn't always the case. Certainly, I remember the years when the mayor of Bombay was a genuinely powerful position way back in the 30s, 40s, 50s, and so on. It's all completely descended now, particularly with the enhanced strength of the chief ministers. Now, this creates precisely the kinds of problems that Tejasvi has described. We need 2 or 3 reforms going together. We need absolutely to empower the urban bodies. We need to give teeth to the elected officials so they can be accountable for what they do and they don't do. We need to give them budgetary authority. And in my ideal formulation, we need to have directly elected mayors. So the elected mayor is given the time to deliver on whatever promises he or she has run on and then be accountable of the next electoral cycle. Right now, a mayor cannot be blamed for anything because he or she is powerless anyway. So it really is an absurd thing, and if indeed Arvindji has been arguing that urbanization is the key to India's future, which I would agree in principle, then I would say that this is where to start. We have to start with system redesign, and urban governance is a fundamental part of that transformation. That covers all the other topics. If you want one magic wand, do this, pass my bill, and then you'll see that at least you have the tools and the budgetary authority to deliver something and be held accountable for it. Right now, I mean, and by the way, some people argue this is democracy at work. No, it's not. It's inefficiency. Let us not call inefficiency democracy because it's not undemocratic to do what I'm suggesting and Tejasvi is suggesting. It can be done democratically with elections, with accountability to the public, and far more efficiency than the present system, which is almost designed to be inefficient. And designed initially by the British at a time when they didn't want any Indians to have any real power anyway. And that's what we have perpetuated.
Samyukta, I think Chennai is your city. You must have seen this very famous photograph of M. Karunanidhi in 1970s wading in a knee-deep water, his waist up to his knee. And then in 2000, we saw Mr. Stalin again wading in the water. Then Udayanidhi Stalin, three people in one family in 40 years, 3 generations wading. Now yesterday, Mr. Vijay took oath in a suit. I'm wondering how is he going to wade water next year. But to put things in perspective, we tried with direct selection of mayor. People elected a mayor. Mr. M.K. Stalin himself was a directly elected mayor of Chennai. Unfortunately, when we took this system away by horse trading, councillors, somebody coming as mayor, we killed the whole system of political accountability there. And if you look at a great city like Madurai, which is supposed to be in existence in 3 Sangha literature for 4,000 years, among the Indian cities in garbage collection, with more than 1 million population, it comes 40th out of 40th. It's a very poor state of affairs, because in a dynastic political structure, I don't want the mayor to overshadow Mr. Udayanidhi Stalin. So I want to keep a mayor a dummy or very inefficient person, so that Udayanidhi Stalin will appear to be an efficient and intelligent person. So you put all the mayors in such a way who are unqualified for the job, politically incompetent, just to show a dynasty is much superior to you. We have killed the complete urban governance. I'm glad 2 great MPs here, because they come from 2 great cities, Thiruvananthapuram and Bangalore South, and private members bill, accountability, and he took about 16 days time to go to Tokyo, urban governance fellowship, sitting there. I'm sure when MPs like them sit in parliament, push for some course correction, when politicians listen to them, direct selection of mayors, training them, building good institutional skills inside it. It's a long shot, but sir clearly pointed out, Tamil Nadu, we are already 60% urban. We can't complain now. We are 60% urban state. And people just don't want to live in urban cities now. I hope people like them rectify it.
Annamalai ji made a very interesting point on why the political economy is not incentivized to empower mayors. 60% of Karnataka's GDP comes from one city, Bengaluru. Now, which chief minister would be politically incentivized to create a mayor who controls 60% of the state's GDP? Therefore, we have a very unique position where the chief minister wants to do mayoral duties and the deputy chief minister and the chief secretary are doing the duties of a councillor. This is the reversal that we are focusing on. And while we speak about 60% urban in Tamil Nadu, we have had this conversation many times. He has educated me on how Tamil Nadu has an industrial belt starting from Salem, Coimbatore, all the way to Tirupur. It's a state that has multiple economic clusters. Whereas in the case of Bengaluru in Karnataka, you take away Bengaluru out of Karnataka, then 60% of your GDP is gone. But the chief minister, instead of increasing the pie, by actually focusing industries and growth in North Karnataka, in Kalyan Karnataka, the Hyderabad, Mumbai Karnataka, from where there is large-scale migration of young people towards Bengaluru, he is now focusing his main responsibilities like the mayor of Bengaluru, because of lack of political devolution of power. But while we are here, we must acknowledge, I thanked Arvind Panigaria ji earlier as well, in the 16th Finance Commission, he has recommended devolution of funds to cities that have 1 million plus populations, higher than ever done before in India's history. So that is going to create a lot of capital and make 1 million plus population cities in India much more livable.
Thank you all. I now may be switching a little more to the economic philosophies. Shashi ji, your coalition has now come to power again in Kerala, and you have also spoken at length about liberalization and how you find that the fruits of that need to be distributed to those left behind. Tejasvi ji, you've been very vocal about Revdi politics and the mechanism of freebies that tend to dictate electoral outcomes. And Annamalai ji, you've spoken at length about how these incentives tend to take away from actual economic philosophies that could help shape India's growth. So I would like to ask the three of you, do you find that there is a tension in India between the way election outcomes happen and the need to provide these incentives or freebies that enable to stay in power? Is there a conflict between power and welfare in India?
I think I am perfectly eligible to answer this question because I come from Tamil Nadu. And we have the highest debt among all the Indian states, 10,74,000 crore. And every ration card carries 4,74,000 rupee. We carry debt, highest. And since TVK is in power, Mr. Vijay is the chief minister. To put all his promises in action, this year he needs 93,000 crore. and you multiply that by 5 years, that is 1 year of Tamil Nadu's budget, which is 4.5 lakh crore. Very unfortunate, we have come to this stage, and of course there is a trickle-down economics, but we have pushed it too far, and everything we kind of bring it under trickle-down economics, and we say, and politically it has become a very safe language. No political party wants to take a risk, and nobody wants to get into the people's anger mood. Politicians assume people want this, and they promise freebies over and above what is happening. And for example, if you look at our electricity system, because of this, our Tamil Nadu Electricity Board has got 1 lakh crore debt. There is no way we can clean it up. There is no way we can clean it up in the next 5-10 years. And all the startup guys, manufacturing companies, new guys, they want energy. You want data centers to come to Tamil Nadu. How can data centers come to Tamil Nadu? When the Tamil Nadu Electricity Board has got 1 lakh crore debt now, and no forward thinking. And of course, we have a Tamil Nadu Chief Minister's Economic Advisory Council headed by a Nobel laureate for 5 years. He sits in US, and I think video conference he does there. And it has come to this stage now. I only hope politics becomes a bit bolder, and being bold is the need of the hour. When you have a very eminent person coming here and talking about big leap reform, 7.3% hitting it for 22 straight years. And for that to happen, the government has to become an enabler. And we are operating in a very safe space, very unfortunate. And it is one political party biting a bullet. And once one party bites it, and this time, at least the good thing about Mr. Vijay TVKS, out of his 234 candidates, close to 200 candidates contested the election without giving a single paisa. Without giving a single paisa. That is one good thing that has come out of Tamil Nadu election. So the other Dravidian parties are like, I gave 2,000, he gave 3,000, people got both the money and they voted for Vijay. So next election, why should we give money? So I hope something like this happened. That is why I said it's a disruptor and black swan event. And I hope somebody bites the bullet. I don't have a direct answer. I can only pray and hope and see that somebody will take this in the future.
Tejasvi and Shashi Tharoor, you have real stake in the game, so.
I mean, my state is a bit different in that we don't have enough money to give anybody. So we haven't yet got into the Tamil Nadu game of bribing voters. And the Tamil Nadu game is quite creative. I heard about one by-election where the candidate actually distributed substantial sums of money by cutting currency notes in half and said, I'll give you the other half when I win. And he won. So it works. You know that story, Annamalai. So, I mean, this is Tamil Nadu, but Kerala is a bit different. I will say, however, that as a issue of principle, the distinction between essential welfare and freebies is a very difficult one to draw. As everyone knows, I tend to be on the sort of right wing of the Congress party when it comes to economics. I'm not a big fan of statism in any particular form, and I really believe in encouraging free enterprise, but with the need to generate revenue for the state, so the state is in a position to help those who have been marginalized and left out. Social liberalism, if you want, is my form of liberalism. And I think that philosophy can be implemented in Indian states, depending, of course, on your resource base. The problem with a state like Kerala is we are so overwhelmingly in debt that literally sort of by September every year, the state government runs out of funds and has to borrow afresh in order to pay salaries and Onam bonuses and so on. And this means that we are in a level of debt that has long been unsustainable. If we were an independent country, we would have been declared bankrupt a long time ago. We're sustained by the fact that we have the security of being part of India. So this is the biggest challenge. How do you manage to generate enough revenue to be able to afford the kind of welfare measures you deem politically necessary? And Annamalai is right that all parties, pretty much, including his, I might add, make promises that mathematically are not justifiable. They cannot be sustained out of budgets. And of course, they find ways of finessing it. They will say, well, actually, what we meant was we will get to it eventually. So it won't be in the first year that you won't get the full amount we promised. By year 5, you will get it just before the next election. And so slowly you'll work your way up to that sort of thing. But now this has become a universal problem because the electorate has enabled it. 30 years ago, I wrote a book called India from Midnight to the Millennium, where I talked at that point about this precise phenomenon, which had happened in Andhra Pradesh, undivided Andhra at the time, when the parties were competitively promising rice at 3 rupees a kilo, 2 rupees a kilo, and 1 rupee a kilo. And I said, I mean, this is going to be absurd, and sure enough it was. And then Chandrababu Naidu actually tried to argue the case at that point. In talking about the 90s, the book was published in 97. Tried to argue the case that this is not something the state treasury can afford, that we have to generate revenue, so I'm not going to make these promises. And he promptly lost his attempt at re-election. So the voters want these promises, they want these freebies, and that's unfortunately something which, in a democracy, remember, India is the only known instance of a democracy that has actually empowered voters to make these decisions, while a majority of the voters are still, by global standards, living below the poverty line. So the onus in our democracy on politicians is to please a majority of the electorate which is living at a level of subsistence that requires the kind of fundamental assistance that politicians are promised. That's why these promises are made. And while Tamil Nadu might be extreme in the kinds of gifts that are doled out and so on, as a general proposition, this is a circle we all have to square. And it's not easy to figure out, but there's got to be some limits, whether those limits are to be introduced by the judiciary, which has been making more and more adverse comments about this practice, whether it's introduced by law, so that the law can tie everyone's hands equally so that parties can't competitively outpromise each other. I don't know. But at the moment, we have this phenomenon across parties, and as I say, the BJP is not an exception, and in every case, they are, at bottom, unsustainable.
Tejaswiji, please, your comments before we turn it over for questions.
I think both have very comprehensively answered this question. There is only one other dimension I want to add. If you look at the manifestos of all political parties these days, and I say this with a lot of responsibility, more and more every political party's manifesto is turning out very similar. There is no distinctive economic philosophy that you kind of understand if you look at the manifestos. That is the fundamental challenge of a competitive democracy. Now, if you have somebody who is promising a 2,000 rupee dole, you cannot be you cannot take this idealist position and not be left out of the race itself. So you will have to say, okay, I'm going to give you 2,500. That is the nature of competitive politics. There is one way that this can be addressed. One is, of course, the judicial way. The second is what the Planning Commission and the Finance Commission has done with respect to the 50-year loans that they are now giving to the states. Now, between 1980s to 2024, the Maharashtra Industrial Association, it's called Mitra, they conducted a survey to understand how devolution of funds tied to capital expenditure will actually result in poverty alleviation. So what resulted was an unbiased analysis that when there is devolution of funds, and that devolution of funds is tied to mandatory creation of capital assets, then that results in a virtuous cycle of investment and leading to prosperity. Now, what the government of India has done, according to the Finance Commission recommendations, is they now offer 50-year interest-free loans to state governments. But the one condition is that out of the 50% of the funds that you get as this 50-year loan must compulsorily go into creation of capital assets. So this is one way of addressing this mindless rave-d politics, for lack of a better word. But this is a challenge to India states. Largely, if we are looking at the economics of India states, more and more it is being, it is evident that many states are now on the path of not actually meeting their fiscal targets. This is a very serious issue. And across the board, serious political parties should actually consider addressing this within the economic and institutional frameworks. This is something that we need to address comprehensively.
Thank you so much. We will be going over for questions. There will be a lot. We can do 3. We'll start with Arunji.
Yeah, since it relates to very much what
was being discussed just now. I think you are seeing a little too much on this Revdi politics. People say that they want more money and give them and do the transfers, etc. But look at what they are doing. People are not voting for the parties that are necessarily promising. People are voting for those parties that deliver good outcomes ultimately. Why does Yogi come back each time? Why did Naveen Patnaik come back 5 or 6 times? Why does the Gujarat government come back since 2001, one after the other, they have won back the elections? Why do the incompetents get thrown out? Why did DMK get thrown out? Why does in Rajasthan, once Congress gets thrown out, then the BJP gets thrown out? I think people actually are voting very, very sensibly, throwing out governments that don't deliver, and returning repeatedly those who deliver. It is just the political class which are not understanding this very well. So personally, we studied in the Finance Commission in great detail this whole issue, and we had a long chapter actually also on the numbers and all as well. But my own ultimate conclusion was that this is not something, of course, Finance Commission could not have said much because, every scheme that you do, say free transportation to women, has something good. So how does anyone kind of say that, oh, shut it off? So it's very difficult to take an objective view. There is no easy way to do it. So we didn't take a view there. We just documented the subsidies and all. But I was personally less worried about it. I think this culture will gradually go away. Look at the Congress has been the one that has been promising the most. How many elections has Congress actually won? So that's my kind of thought that I'm less worried. I think, people know what they want and how they are voting in a way. It's only the political class which have to perhaps catch up with the reality. And hopefully they will actually, in many of the states, they are catching up.
Okay, I'm going to take 3 quick questions. 1, 2, and then I'm going to go over there, 3 white. 1, 2, and person in the white. So we'll start here.
Namaste. There's a lot of talk about the delimitation bill that was in Parliament and didn't go through. Just want to hear your comments on that. Why didn't go through, and what are plausible formulas that we can have that going forward, especially in the southern states. So.
Please, we request that you keep it brief because we do.
No, I didn't vote against. We voted against the Trojan horse of bringing delimitation in under the mask of Nari Shakti, of women's empowerment, but that's another issue. Now, on delimitation, very simply, what is the issue at the stake? Both Tejasvi and I spoke in that debate, and the way it's being couched, essentially, is that we need to redelimit because one citizen, one vote, one value is the core principle of the Constitution, since the freezing of delimitation of Lok Sabha boundaries, according to the census of 1971, we have a situation in which undoubtedly the northern states, which population has grown by leaps and bounds since, each MP represents a larger number of people than a southern MP because we have been controlling our population and curbing numbers, and they've gone down. Now, the problem with this, of course, is that if you follow purely one citizen, one vote, what you're going to end up with is a situation where there will be a disproportionate number of MPs for the Hindi heartland states, which are the ones whose population has burgeoned dramatically, and the southern states will feel disenfranchised because on many issues, an absolute majority, and quite conceivably before too long, a 2/3 majority, will belong to the states in the north, who will then be able to impose their view on. I've noticed, for example, every year some chap will stand up and want to pass a law saying that Hindi should be the national language, and the Tamils will immediately get up and scream. Now, what happens if they actually have the 2/3 majority to make that a law? What happens to national unity? So these are fairly important questions. The Constitution calls India a union of states. And so the idea is, in addition to one citizen, one vote, you need a counterbalancing principle of one state, one equal partner in the federal arrangement. And how do we find that? These debates have taken place in other democracies. In America, they worked out the Connecticut Compromise, whereby the lower house reflected population and it keeps getting changed depending on demography, but the upper house is equal, so a tiny state like Vermont or Delaware has the same number of senators as California or Texas. And this is something which is a way of balancing, because also the Senate in America has far more powers than the Rajya Sabha does in India. There is a second formula that we need to think about. Is it not time for us to reimagine our entire federal structure? Does it make sense to have a state like UP with 280 million people? Should we not seriously empower a states reorganization commission? When Mayawati was chief minister of UP, she passed a resolution demanding that UP be broken up into 4 states. Now, if you were to be able to do that, if Maharashtra became 2 states, and whatever, you can look at the possibilities. You may have more states in India, and then each of them could have equal upper house representation without it being so anomalous that Sikkim has the same number of Rajya Sabha MPs as UP. Wouldn't make sense, but if UP were 4 states, it might be more balanced. There is a third possibility. The European Union also has a problem of powerful states and poorer states, which is done through a principle of digressive proportionality, where yes, the larger states get more European MPs because they are larger and they have more people, but it's not strictly according to population. There is a floor below which the smaller states don't sink, and there is a ceiling above which the larger states can't go. So again, balance is brought about. Finally, in India, there is one more complication, which is that it so happens that the less populated states are also the ones contributing most to the national exchequer. States like Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, even Kerala with its remittances, give a lot more to Delhi than they get from the Finance Commission. Arunji is still sitting there. There's been complaints and concerns about the proportions allocated to various states. So we're the only such example in the world. In most other countries, the richer states happen also to be the more populous ones. Italy, for example, which had similar debates. In India, it's the opposite problem. And that could result in serious challenges to national unity. I've summarized all this as quickly as I could. Those who are really interested can read my article in the Indian Express. Both Tejasvi and I spoke on it. And if you're really interested, you can also watch our speeches on YouTube. The bottom line is, what I believe we need is a grand national consultation on these issues. In the normal course of events, thanks to the constitutional amendment passed by the present government, you will have a census that will come through sometime between 27 and 29. Those figures will then lead to a delimitation, and probably around the time of the 2034 election, you'll have a new map of India, politically. Between roughly 27 and 34, you need to have a profound debate about the future shape of this country for the next 50 years. And that debate is something that I've been calling for, because it goes to the very heart of Indian unity. We all love India, Indian civilization, Indian unity, the Indian idea, the Indian cricket team, whatever. But how we design that India politically is going to have far-reaching implications for how we get from here to there. If you allow it simply to go through this mechanical thing, or worse still, pass a delimitation bill in haste, you end up really jeopardizing the unity and future of India. That's the broad answer from my point of view.
Now, giving you the other perspective, which is the right perspective also. Now, where do you see your MPs in India? I see my MP only in the newspaper. 22 lakh people, 25 lakh people, 30 lakh people, 3 million. They vote. Only time as MP does some ribbon cutting, we all see in the newspaper. Now we can keep speculating options, we can keep giving grand bargains, but India needs a solution. Tamil Nadu's TFR is already at 1.4. We are one of the lowest in the country. We are at 1.4. 2026, whatever the parliament restriction was put 50 years before, 225 extension is coming to an end. Census numbers will come. Now this is one thing where the North Indian states, which naturally might deserve a larger number of MPs. Now this is a grand bargain between a North Indian states and South Indian states to come to a definite conclusion that let us all arrive at a number in which nobody is losing what it was already at 543. Now I really simply don't understand why Congress opposed it. And now, even now they speculate option 7, we have option 11, we can endlessly debate it for the next 20 years. This is an opportunity for all states to come to one common point, agree, where Tamil Nadu will believe if we go by 2011 census, Tamil Nadu will get 50. Now in the new model, we are getting 59. We are getting 9 more extra. UP might believe, oh, 1 person, 1 vote, we should have gotten more. Now because of this grand bargain, we are getting less. So this is a problem where every state will rightfully believe I am losing or I am gaining. When the central government has proposed a concept where let us arrive at a solution where nobody is losing, nobody is gaining. 50 years it has kept us from now. Now we have to just push it further. And now again you start a debate, again states like Tamil Nadu, which rightfully, after 1965 agitation that happened, which torn apart the state, again we go for it. I don't think we'll find a solution, which I particularly believe, with Shashiji, with his eminence, can argue, put in the parliament as different perspective, but this is a solution we are arriving at. And now when they say it's a Trojan horse, Nari Shakti, today we are on Mother's Day. And India rightfully is demanding a 33% reservation, rightfully.
Pass it today,
From
we'll vote for it
96 they are
today. You can vote for it immediately. Don't link it to delimitation.
No.
Have one-third reservation for women in today's parliament, we'll all vote for it.
After census numbers come, will North Indian states agree? Let us imagine census number come by 27, 28 or 29, let us imagine. Will states like UP agree? If a state like UP stands up and say, no, the proportional representation, one person, one vote, we need more number of MPs, where will we go and put our head? A grand bargain is a bargain where every state should come to a conclusion that this is a solution. Unfortunately, it does not happen.
But a parliament of 850 is also a disaster. As it is with 543, many people don't get a chance to speak, to debate, to discuss.
I am seeing the MPs only in the papers, sir. At least
That's
let me
what
have the opportunity
so
to
then
see the MPs.
we also need to work out what the MLAs do, what the councillors do.
Agree, sir.
Especially
That
where
part I
empowered,
agree with
and what the MPs do, so we can have a distinction rather than going to 850.
We will move to the next question because this is.
Can I take 30 seconds?
Okay, quickly, please.
There is an inherent logical fallacy in the Congress's argument, and that is all I want to say. They are okay with maintaining the 1971 proportion of seats. So Shashiji is okay if the delimitation exercise is conducted within states based on the 1971 numbers, as long as 543 is the number of seats. What we are proposing is exactly the same. What we are saying is, let us maintain the proportion of 543. No state will lose, no state will gain. From 543, the number of seats will become 850. Every state will have a proportionate 50% increase. The total percentage in the overall floor of the parliament for every state will remain as it exists today. But because in 1971 the population of the country was 550 crores, was 55 crores, and today the population of the country is 140 crores. This is a mathematical necessity. Like what Annaji mentioned, I represent a constituency of 26 lakh people. It is impossible for a common citizen to actually go and meet the MP and get things done. So not just because it is a constitutional mandate, because the constitution asks that delimitation should be done once in 10 years, it is also a democratic necessity because in the existing framework, there is no question of accountability as far as the elected representative is concerned. So the argument is absurd because you are asking for a composition of the parliament to remain frozen in time. 543, 1971 population cannot cater to a democracy of 140 crore people in 2026. That is limited.
The US House of Representatives, we are in the US, has remained at the same number of 435 since 1929.
It is clearly not
what the US population has tripled. The US population has tripled since 1929, but because they recognize that you cannot have a debating chamber of 850. It'll become a Desi version of the Chinese People's Consultative Conference, where you just stand up when the great leader comes and thump your desks. You won't have a chance to speak, argue, debate, anything. 850 is a joke. It cannot be a serious
Shashiji, on the day of the discussion happened, both of our columns appeared in the same Indian Express, arguing both our sides. The Indian Parliament was sitting for about 150 to 160 days in the 1950s and 60s. In the last, and there's a decline that is happening. Now we see around 55, 56 because of the disruptions of the Congress. You don't allow for the debates to take place. No, coming back, the point is, if you are increasing the number of seats, please also mandate an increased sitting of the parliament.
Correct.
So it is, you shouldn't be taking away the right of a citizen to be represented effectively, accountably, by making an argument that 850 is too big a number. It's a country of 140 crore people. You need a big parliament because I want to speak to my MP. I want to meet him. I want to know what he is working on, and I want to hold him accountable, which I'm not able to do with a 26 million electorate today. 26 lakh electorate today. That is a limited point. We want to make democracy accountable. We want to ensure that there is an accountability between the voter and the elected. And while doing all of this, we want to ensure that neither the North nor the South feels somebody has lost and somebody is unfairly gained, while also maintaining the principle of one person, one vote, that is sacrosancting the constitution. Now, the other argument that one of your colleagues gave was linking linking the number of seats to the GSDP of a state. Now, how absurd is this? It's such a cyclical number. 6 months, the GSDP is high, so you increase the number of seats. It's a bad monsoon year, so decrease the number of seats the next year. These are the illogical arguments put forth by the opposition. It doesn't work. We had proposed a very responsible, very workable, practical solution. Maintain the proportion as it exists today. 50% increase flat for every state. Constituencies will be made smaller. Democracy will become more accountable. And this was what I think is the only practical solution if we actually want to have 140 crore people adequately, effectively represented.
We will have to cap the discussion because we are running out of time. I'm going to ask each of you very short, 15 seconds, I'm timing it, your short message to the Stanford community and to the folks who have gathered here. Very short, 15 seconds, go.
I'm not known for brevity, besides it's 2 to 1 right here, so I get twice the length. Yeah, I get 30 seconds. No, honestly, all I would say to the Stanford community is please stay engaged. I'm so glad that you're having this kind of discussion. And the more you stay involved in what's going on in India, you all have tremendous ideas to offer. You're doing cutting-edge work and research in a lot of fields that are relevant to our country. Stay engaged with us. I mean, what we're talking about is only one aspect of it. There's so many others discussing so many things. Give us an opportunity to share our current thinking. In turn, please influence our ideas and thoughts so that when we go back to India, we go with some of the latest cutting-edge thoughts that you've all got in your respective fields. And let's try and keep this dialogue going. The diaspora, I've often called the National Reserve of India, not just the non-resident Indians, the National Reserve of India. And we need to be able to count on your continued engagement, support, and goodwill in the time ahead. It's not always been there, so I hope it'll come. Thank you very much.
To the Stanford community, proud of you guys. Last year, small room, less than 50 people, to such a big room and such a great audience here. It shows the leap you have taken in 1 year, third year running. Come back to our country, go to villages, stay there for some time. Whenever you come for a holiday, take 4 or 5 days, go and stay in a village. See everybody, don't stay only in the urban areas. India is changing fast. Take time to meet the parliamentarians. If there is an opportunity, work with them for a week or 10 days. Put your solutions in action there. And trust politics actually works. And don't stay away from politics. They're good politicians. And be a fellow with them. Work with them, elected representatives. Put your thinking into action. You will see the change that is possible in front of you. Thank you.
I have been a student organizer myself. I know the kind of effort student organizations have to put to pull off an event of this scale. So congratulations, the team has done an exceptional job. Like Annamalai ji said, India holds exceptional promise. Please come back to India, not just to learn, but also to effectively contribute. I have seen so many thought leaders, tech leaders come to India, work on solutions because they believe, rightly so, that if you solve for India, you're actually solving for the world. So all the very best, and the next few decades truly belongs to all of us. All the very best.
Thank you all so much. And on that note, we would like to felicitate our panel for joining us today.
Pollution accumulates inside your skin. That makes your face feel bhari bhari. That's why there is Pond Skin Institute's Detox Face Wash with activated charcoal that has 10x detox power. This face wash with its deep action sucks out minute pollution particles. No bhari bhari, only bright skin. Miracles happen.
Traders, prop firms aren't a risk-free way to trade, but this one might be. Let me explain. You're still paying £300, £400, £500 up front. You should be using TurboTrade. You can choose an account from 10K all the way up to 200K for just $8.88. And you only pay the rest if you actually pass the account. The actual challenge is a simple one-step evaluation with a 6% profit target, 80% reward split, and you have unlimited time to complete it. This should be the standard way every prop firm works, and there's no reason you shouldn't give this a try.
Sit-down interview as such on a question-answer session. So there are many questions that I have, but I understand there's a time constraint. And so I will get straight to the point on the Agnipath scheme. Was there any need to tinker with a scheme which has been working with a process of recruitment and a system of hierarchy which has been in place for so long?
Well, thank you very much for this interview. I'm grateful to you, and it's a very contemporary subject which is needs to be deliberated and discussed. I'll tell you, firstly, we must understand security is a very dynamic concept. It cannot remain static. Security is only in relation to the environment in which we have to protect our national interests and in which we have to protect all our national assets. In this context, if we see, the whole world is undergoing a great change. The wars are changing their complexion. Increasingly, we are going towards a contactless war. We are also going towards a war against the invisible enemy. Technology is taking over at a very rapid speed. So what was good for yesterday is not necessarily good for tomorrow. जो हम कल कर रहे थे वही भविष्य में भी करते रहें तो हम सुरक्षित रहेंगे, ये संभव नहीं है. यदि हमें कल की तैयारी करनी है तो हमें परिवर्तित होना पड़ेगा. आवश्यक इसलिए था कि ये सारी का सारा जो इन्वायरमेंट है भारत के चारों तरफ सारे संसार के अंदर में वो बदल रहा है. दूसरा, इसको एक परिप्रेक्ष्य में देखने की ज़रूरत है. देयर इज अ नीड टू लुक एट इट इन ए पर्सपेक्टिव. ये अग्निपथ अपने में कोई योजना नहीं है. यह अग्निपथ अपने में कोई स्टैंड अलोन साइलो नहीं है. प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी जब सत्ता में आए 2014 में, तो उनकी सबसे बड़ी प्राथमिकता, वन ऑफ हिज प्राइम प्रायोरिटी वाज हाउ टू मेक इंडिया सिक्योर एंड स्ट्रांग. And that required many avenues, that required many steps, multitude of them. Broadly speaking, they come under the four heads. It requires equipment, it requires change in systems and structures, it requires change in technology, it requires change in manpower, policies, and they have got to be futuristic. कल और भविष्य की तरफ देखते हुए हमारे को इन चारों क्षेत्रों में अपनी प्रगति करनी है. आपने देखा होगा, अगर आप पिछले 8 सालों के अंदर में देखें तो स्ट्रक्चरल एंड सिस्टमेटिक चेंजेस बहुत सारे हुए हैं. मान लिया जाए कि CDS का वो था, पिछले 22-25 साल से पड़ा हुआ था, ये डिमांड थी, ग्रुप ऑफ मिनिस्टर्स की रिकमेंडेशन थी, लेकिन राजनीतिक इच्छा शक्ति न होने के कारण ये इम्प्लीमेंट नहीं हुई. हमारे यहाँ साइबर थ्रेट्स पैदा होने शुरू हो गए थे. डिफेंस साइबर एजेंसी का निर्माण एक स्ट्रक्चरल एंड सिस्टमिक चेंज था. डिफेंस स्पेस एजेंसी का आज से 5 साल 10 साल पुराने सैनिक इसकी कल्पना भी नहीं कर सकते थे कि आज हमारी डिफेंस एजेंसी की अपनी स्पेस की एक इंडिपेंडेंट एजेंसी है, एक इंडिपेंडेंट वो है. इसी प्रकार से बहुत सारे जो सिस्टम्स एंड स्ट्रक्चर्स भी चेंज किए गए. दूसरा जो क्षेत्र था जो है इक्विपमेंट का. आज हम, आपने देखा होगा, सरकार ने अपनी सेना के लिए कितने नए तरह के वेपन्स, हमारे पास में जो असॉल्ट राइफल थी जिस पर हम डिपेंड कर रहे थे 7.62, वो शायद इतनी कारगर नहीं थी. अब उसको रिप्लेस किया जा रहा है भारत में बनी हुई AK-203 के साथ में. ये एक बहुत ही कामगर और दुनिया की वन ऑफ द बेस्ट असॉल्ट राइफल्स होगी। इसी प्रकार से अगर हम देखें, चाहे वो पनडुब्बियों के क्षेत्र में है, चाहे वो पर्सनल इक्विपमेंट ऑफ द सोल्जर है, चाहे वो एयरक्राफ्ट्स हैं, हमने लाइट कॉम्बैट एयरक्राफ्ट का और अब एक 5th जनरेशन एयरक्राफ्ट एमका का हम निर्माण कर रहे हैं। तो इक्विपमेंट के क्षेत्र में एक बहुत प्रगति की जा रही है। और एक है टेक्नोलॉजी का फील्ड, जो सबसे ज़्यादा कॉम्पिटिटिव फील्ड है। इसमें पैसा भी बहुत लगता है और बहुत कुशल वैज्ञानिकों की आवश्यकता होती है। वी नीड द टॉप साइंटिस्ट हु आर ग्लोबली कॉम्पिटिटिव एंड अदर्स। देखिए, इस सरकार के टाइम के ऊपर में अंतरिक्ष के अंदर में जो बड़े और नए संकट आए, सारे का सारा वारफेयर जो है वो सैटेलाइट कंट्रोल होगा। आपका जो हवाई जहाज चलेगा या आपके जो रडार्स काम करेंगे वो सब सैटेलाइट कम्युनिकेशन एंड सैटेलाइट कंट्रोल होंगे।
पर सर, ये अग्निवीर जो है उनकी ट्रेनिंग सिर्फ 1 या 3 महीने की होगी। मतलब आर्मी चीफ ने कहा है दैट बाय दिसंबर रिक्रूटमेंट हो जाएगी और मार्च तक डिप्लॉयमेंट हो जाएगी। ये कहाँ से आप उनको ट्रेनिंग दे सकते हैं रेडार या सबमरीन के लिए? हाउ टू रन इट, हाउ विल यू ट्रेन देम इतनी जल्दी?
हाँ, मैं आपको इस पॉइंट पर आता हूँ, ये बहुत अच्छा पॉइंट है, मैं आपको अभी बताता हूँ। बट आई जस्ट टेल यू, बिफोर दैट लेट मी टेल यू दैट इज इन द फील्ड ऑफ टेक्नोलॉजी वी हैव डन अ ग्रेट दिस थिंग। वी हैव गॉट लाइट कॉम्बैट एयरक्राफ्ट, वी हैव गॉट एमका, वी हैव गॉट सबमरीन्स दैट वी हैव मेड, वी हैव गिवन द न्यूक्लियर सबमरीन्स दैट वी हैव लॉन्च्ड, एंड वी आल्सो बिकेम a space power. We have hit at the satellites. And the 4th pedestal of it is the manpower reorganization. Now, in the manpower reorganization, the point that you have raised was that is we must have a young, agile, fit, well-trained army.
Okay.
It is a contradiction. It's a paradox कि भारत का वो देश जिसकी सबसे यंग पॉपुलेशन है, उसकी एक ओल्डेस्ट आर्मी है। जहाँ पर 2030 के अंदर में 50% लोग 25 साल से कम उम्र के होंगे, उसी देश के अंदर में जो सेना की एवरेज एज है वो दुनिया के सबसे अधिक एजेड आर्मीज में से है। तो हमें उसको ठीक करना था। अब आपने प्रश्न किया कि यदि हमारे को अग्निवीर बनाते हैं या हम अग्निपथ के रास्ते पर चलते हैं तो किस प्रकार से हम उनकी ट्रेनिंग और उनको इक्विप कर पाएंगे इन नई चुनौतियों का, टू मीट द न्यू चैलेंजेस एंड द थ्रेट्स। विल दे बी कॉम्पिटेंट इनफ? नाउ लेट मी टेल यू वन थिंग। फर्स्ट पॉइंट यू मस्ट अंडरस्टैंड, अग्निवीर विल नेवर कंस्टिट्यूट द होल आर्मी। अग्निवीर केवल पहले 4 साल में रिक्रूटेड जवान होंगे। बाकी लोग जो होंगे, जिनका की प्रोपोर्शन एक बहुत बड़ा होगा, वो अनुभवी होंगे। दे विल बी एक्सपीरियंस, दे विल बी ट्रेन्ड एंड अदर, एंड दीज अग्निवीर, दोज हु बिकम द रेगुलर्स इवेंचुअली, विल गो थ्रू मोर इंटेंसिव ट्रेनिंग, विल एक्वायर द एक्सपीरियंस, विल बिकम मोर बैटल worthy and more experienced over the period of time. So Indian Army at any point of time will have a large number of people who, though recruited as Agniveer, but had been specially selected for their suitability, for their fitness, for their agility, for their motivation and for their aptitude for the job, and also did not have that sort of the personal problems by which they would like to leave the army and settle for something which is more stable and a personal life. So these persons will be well trained. So it is not only that the Indian Army will be having only this component. Yes, Indian Army will constitute at the level of the Jawans and the ORs who had been recruited through the process of Agniveer, specially selected, whose work, whose performance has been monitored and digitally monitored through various complex processes over a long period of time. Selection is one part. Even when you select people who are physically fit and others, it's a very small thing. But when we observe them over a longer period of time, we are able to see that what sort of material do we have which will make the ideal soldier for the future. Imagine the army of 15 years hence, in which all those who have been recruited have come through the special 4 years probation period and then gone and joined the army. See their technical skills, see their motivation, their physical fitness and others. They will all be the people who will probably the cream of the Indian Army.
Right. So my first question will be, I will go later into those who are not being amalgamated, but first about those who are going to be amalgamated into the service. There's already a system of your regiments and corps. Will it not demotivate somebody who has gone through the NDA, who's gone through the rigorous training process earlier, and then they'll see them as Johnny come latelys, abhi aaye hain, abhi fauj mein ghus gaye hain, and they're already getting the benefits that we were getting, but we had to put in so much more hard work. So will it cause a disruption, and will they be seen as lesser soldiers?
ਦਿਲ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੁਝ ਹੋਰ ਭੁੱਲਾਂ ਉੱਤੇ ਕੁਝ ਹੋਰ ਸੀ ਗਹਿਰਾ ਦਾ ਤੇਰੇ ਤੇ ਤੇਰਾ ਸਾਡੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਜ਼ੋਰ ਸੀ ਗਹਿਰਾ ਦਾ ਤੇਰੇ ਤੇ ਤੇਰਾ ਸਾਡੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਜ਼ੋਰ ਸੀ ਤਾਈਓ ਰਗ ਰਗ ਯਾਰਾਂ ਦੀ ਰੋਲਦੀ ਰਹੀ ਬਸ ਇਹੋ ਦੁੱਖ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਝੂਠ ਅੱਖਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਅੱਖਾਂ ਪਾ ਕੇ ਬੋਲਦੀ ਰਹੀ ਬਸ ਇਹੋ ਦੁੱਖ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਝੂਠ ਅੱਖਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਅੱਖਾਂ ਪਾ ਕੇ ਬੋਲਦੀ ਰਹੀ ਬਸ ਇਹੋ ਦੁੱਖ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਬਸ ਇਹੋ ਦੁੱਖ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਬੈਠੀ ਗੈਰਾਂ ਦੀ ਬਗਲ ਸਾਡੀ ਬੁੱਕਲ ਚੋਂ ਉੱਠੀ ਤਾਈਓ ਹਰ ਇੱਕ ਬਾਜੀ ਸਾਡੀ ਪੈਂਦੀ ਰਹੀ ਪੁੱਠੀ ਤਾਈਓ ਹਰ ਇੱਕ ਬਾਜੀ ਸਾਡੀ ਪੈਂਦੀ ਰਹੀ ਪੁੱਠੀ ਭੇਦ ਸਾਡੀਆਂ ਵਿਰੋਧੀਆਂ ਤੋਂ ਖੋਲਦੀ ਰਹੀ ਬਸ ਇਹੋ ਦੁੱਖ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਝੂਠ ਅੱਖਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਅੱਖਾਂ ਪਾ ਕੇ ਬੋਲਦੀ ਰਹੀ ਬਸ ਇਹੋ ਦੁੱਖ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਬਸ ਇਹੋ ਦੁੱਖ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰ ਆਖ ਦਿੰਦੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਪਾਸੇ ਅੱਖਾਂ ਸਾਵੇਂ ਪਾੜ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਇਸ਼ਕੇ ਦੇ ਬੇਹੀ ਖਾਤੇ ਅੱਖਾਂ ਸਾਵੇਂ ਪਾੜ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਇਸ਼ਕੇ ਦੇ ਬੇਹੀ ਖਾਤੇ ਤੂੰ ਤਾਂ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਜ਼ਹਿਰ ਜਿਹਾ ਘੋਲਦੀ ਰਹੀ ਬਸ ਇਹੋ ਦੁੱਖ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਝੂਠ ਅੱਖਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਅੱਖਾਂ ਪਾ ਕੇ ਬੋਲਦੀ ਰਹੀ ਬਸ ਇਹੋ ਦੁੱਖ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਬਸ ਇਹੋ ਦੁੱਖ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਭਾਵੇਂ ਚਾਨੀ ਉੱਤੇ ਪੁੱਜੀ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਪੌੜੀਆਂ ਬਣਾ ਕੇ ਕਦੇ ਮੁੜੇਗੀ ਕਿਸ਼ਨਗੜ੍ਹ ਪਿੰਡ ਧੋਖੇ ਖਾ ਕੇ ਕਦੇ ਮੁੜੇਗੀ ਕਿਸ਼ਨਗੜ੍ਹ ਪਿੰਡ ਧੋਖੇ ਖਾ ਕੇ ਯਾਦ ਆਊਗਾ ਤਜਿੰਦਰ ਜੋ ਰੋਲਦੀ ਰਹੀ ਬਸ ਇਹੋ ਦੁੱਖ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਝੂਠ ਅੱਖਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਅੱਖਾਂ ਪਾ ਕੇ ਬੋਲਦੀ ਰਹੀ ਬਸ ਇਹੋ ਦੁੱਖ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਬਸ ਇਹੋ ਦੁੱਖ ਸਾਨੂੰ
देखिए, सेना में जाने वाला हर रिक्रूट फ्रेश होता है, चाहे वो रेगुलर में जाए, चाहे वो अग्निवीर की तरह जाए, चाहे आज से 15 साल पहले जाता था, उसकी भी पहले 1 महीने की सर्विस होती है, फिर 6 महीने की होती है, फिर 1 साल की होती है। वो शुरू नहीं होता है 15 साल की या 12 साल की सर्विस के साथ में। एक बात, जहाँ तक रेजिमेंट्स का सवाल है, इसमें 2 बातें समझनी चाहिए। ये जो रेजिमेंट्स का कंसेप्ट है, इसको कोई टिंकर नहीं कर रहा है। अगर रेजिमेंट्स हैं तो आर्टिलरी की रेजिमेंट्स रहेंगी, आर्मर्ड कोर की रेजिमेंट्स रहेंगी, इलेक्ट्रिकल मैकेनिकल इंजीनियर्स हैं या इंजीनियर्स हैं या बाकी सारे हैं। ये जो रेजिमेंटल कभी कभी इन्फेंट्री की कुछ यूनिट्स के अंदर में बारे में लोगों को भ्रम है। पहली बात तो अब कोई कास्ट बेस्ड रेजिमेंट्स बहुत कम बची हैं, सिर्फ 2 या 3 हैं जो कि अभी भी प्योर उसी एरिया के क्षेत्र को करते हैं। और ये एक कॉलोनियल लेगेसी है। अंग्रेज़ ये चाहते थे कि कोई भी चीज़ पैन इंडिया ना हो, और वो ये चाहते थे कि उनको किसी न किसी वर्ग में बांटा जाए और उस वर्ग या क्षेत्र के प्रतिनिधि के रूप में जाए, उनका कोई नेशनल पर्सपेक्टिव नहीं हो, क्योंकि इससे उनके अपने कॉलोनियल एम्पायर को एक खतरा था। देखिए मैं आपको बताता हूँ, इसी इंडियन आर्मी को फर्स्ट टाइम ये नेशनल आर्मी के रूप में कब आई? आज़ाद हिंद फौज की तरीके से, व्हेन इट बिकेम द इंडियन नेशनल आर्मी। क्या था उसका? 60,000 की फौज थी। कोई रेजिमेंट थी इनकी? थी रेजिमेंट। इनकी रेजिमेंट थी रानी झांसी रेजिमेंट, इनकी रेजिमेंट थी महात्मा गांधी रेजिमेंट।
नॉट एन अहीर और राजपूत और
ये नहीं थी। और कितना सैक्रिफाइस किया इन्होंने? 60,000 में से 40,000 मारे गए। इतना एट्रिशन हुआ था। दुनिया के अंदर में किसी लड़ाई के अंदर में इतने एट्रिशन एंड कैजुअलिटीज नहीं हुई है जितनी इंडियन नेशनल आर्मी ने इम्फाल, कोहिमा के और सिंगापुर के बैटल्स के अंदर में गंवाए हैं। वो किसके लिए लड़ रहे थे? उनमें रेजिमेंटल प्राइड नहीं था क्या? उनके लिए वो नहीं था, वो भारत के लिए लड़ रहे थे। They were the soldiers of the India. They called themselves as the Indian National Army.
But so do the regiments here, right?
That's
now.
right. So they will continue.
Okay.
That's what I'm telling you. They will have the nomenclature. There will be the regiment of this. I do not know how this concept has come that anybody is tinkering with the regimental pride or the regimental ethos. उसका अपना tradition होगा। अगर कोई एक battalion है, उसकी अपना एक valor है, उसकी अपनी एक history है, तो वो हमेशा बरकरार रहेगा और उसमें बढ़ोतरी होती जाएगी। अब इसका हुआ ये है कि हमने ये कहा कि एक ऑल इंडिया कॉम्प्लेक्शन होगा इंडियन आर्मी का। इसको लोगों ने कहा कि रेजिमेंटल सिस्टम खत्म हो गया। रेजिमेंटल सिस्टम खत्म नहीं हुआ। इन्फेंट्री रहेगी, आर्टिलरी रहेगी, आर्मर्ड कोर रहेगा, सिग्नल्स रहेंगे। इन्फेंट्री के अंदर में भी ग्रेनेडियर्स हैं, के अंदर में गार्ड्स हैं, रेजिमेंट ऑफ गार्ड्स है। रेजिमेंट ऑफ गार्ड्स में किसका जाति के लोग हैं? कितना स्प्लेंडेड वो है उनका। ग्रेनेडियर्स है, उसमें किस जाति के, धर्म के, क्षेत्र के लोग हैं? हमारे जो परमवीर चक्र जो है, जब उनको मिला तो ये ग्रेनेडियर्स ने जितने ऑनर्स एंड बैटल ऑनर्स उन्होंने लिए हैं। तो ये सिर्फ हम ये चाहते हैं कि भारत के हर नागरिक, हर यूथ, हर युवा, एवरी यूथ ऑफ दिस कंट्री हु हैज़ गॉट ए डिज़ायर एंड ए मोटिवेशन and feels a sense of commitment to defend the country, he gets an opportunity. His youth, his energy, his talent is plowed towards making this country strong and impregnably defendable.
What happens after those 4 years are over and they don't find space in the services and they don't find space in the paramilitary? Because the reason I'm asking is कुछ लूज कमेंट्स आए हैं कि वो प्लम्बर, इलेक्ट्रिशियन बन सकते हैं, सिक्योरिटी गार्ड बन सकते हैं। तो फ्यूचर को लेके थोड़ा बहुत एप्रीहेंशन कर लीजिए या डर है लोगों में कि हाउ विल दे बी बेटर ऑफ after the 4 years? Will they have a skill set which is market friendly, which they can get jobs?
I think this is one of the biggest misunderstanding that has been created either deliberately or by lack of full knowledge and understanding of this thing. We are talking about a young man who is 22 or 23 years old, has done 4 years of service and now is in the market. Compare him with any other 21, 22 years old man who has not become Agniveer. This person has become disciplined. He has got the capability to work in a team. He has learned skills. He has developed the confidence. And he is trainable. His mind and his vision, he has got an all India perspective. So he is much more equipped to face the society. On top of it, he has been given a qualification that will be +2. That makes him comparable with any other persons in his age group to which the others are joining. So there is no avenue that has been debarred or closed for him. इसके लिए वो सारे रास्ते खुले हैं। उसके बाद उसके पास में 11 लाख रुपए के लगभग पैसा भी है, जिससे वो कोई नया कोर्स कर सकता है, आगे की पढ़ाई कर सकता है, यूनिवर्सिटी में जाना चाहे तो यूनिवर्सिटी की पढ़ाई कर सकता है। उनमें से कोई अगर टेक्निकल स्किल्स ज्वाइन करना चाहे तो पॉलिटेक्निक्स और उसको ज्वाइन कर सकता है। आजकल एवरेज एज सेटलमेंट की अपने करियर में 24-25 साल 26 साल होती है। देखिए आज हम उस ज़माने में हमारे एज स्पैन के साथ में 1 लाइफ 2 कैरियर्स की बात करते हैं, अब तो लोग 1 लाइफ 3 कैरियर्स की बात करते हैं। कंपेयर करें, यही आदमी अगर 15 साल के बाद जाता तो 32, 33, 34 साल का होता। इस वक्त में अब उसको कोई ना ट्रेनेबल है, उसकी एज जितनी भी नहीं है कि वो घर में बैठ जाए, क्योंकि अभी उसकी शादी हुई 3-4 साल हुए हैं। अभी उसके पास कोई छोटा बच्चा है जिसको पढ़ाना भी है, कोई लड़की होगी तो वही 15-20 साल के बाद शादी के लायक होगी। उसके पास में जिम्मेदारियां ही जिम्मेदारियां हैं। पहले का ज़माना फ़र्क था। ये जो सोल्जर था वो गांव से आता था और गांव वापस चला जाता था। गांव में रहने के लिए उसके पास थोड़ी ज़मीन होती थी और पेंशन पे गुजारा हो जाता था। आज पेंशन पर उसका गुजारा नहीं हो सकता, तो उसको सेकंड करियर की आवश्यकता होती है। 34 साल के बाद में इसका 40 साल का जीवन अभी और बचा हुआ है। इस 40 साल के जीवन में ना उसको हम नई ट्रेनिंग दे सकते हैं, ना उसको कहीं पर अगर अब्जॉर्ब करें तो वो एक नए करियर की नई शुरुआत, नई जोश के साथ में उसको आगे बढ़ा सकता है। तो इसलिए इसको ये रखा गया है कि अगर वो 4 साल के बाद में आते हैं तो उनकी ट्रेनिंग, उनका डिसिप्लिन, उनका बैकग्राउंड, उनका आर्मी का करियर उनको समाज में एक ऊंचा स्तर देता है। उसके बाद उनके पास में एजुकेशन भी है और ये टॉप ऑफ इट है कि सरकार ने कहा कि 10% CPMF में होंगे, डिफेंस फोर्सेस के अंदर में, जो डिफेंस मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ डिफेंस के अंदर में कोस्ट गार्ड है, बाकी चीज़ें हैं जो कि उनके उसमें अंदर में आती हैं, डिफेंस सर्विस कोर है और जो उसके अंदर में और काफ़ी मिनिस्ट्री का है। अब देखिए ये 10% अग्निवीर का नहीं है, ये 10% उनके यहाँ भर्ती होने वाले लोगों की हैं। तो अगर फर्ज कर लीजिए कि CPMF की भर्ती 40,000 या 50,000 की है तो उसमें 5,000 जाएंगे।
ओके।
या 10% अगर जो उनके 3,000 या 4,000 लोग या 5,000 लोग जो है वो उनके जो उसका 10% नहीं होगा, ये इन नहीं। अब भारत आगे बढ़ रहा है, भारत की प्रगति हो रही है। पहला आदमी अग्निवीर जब रिटायर होगा तो आज से 5 साल के बाद में होगा। उस वक्त भारत की इकोनॉमी 5 ट्रिलियन की इकोनॉमी होगी। प्राइवेट सेक्टर एक नई गति और नई दिशा के साथ में आगे बढ़ेगा। डिफेंस इंडस्ट्रीज जिस तरह से बढ़ रही हैं, बहुत सारे ऐसे काम होंगे। डिफेंस पब्लिक सेक्टर अंडरटेकिंग्स के अंदर में जिस प्रकार से विस्तार हो रहा है, कंट्री के अंदर में मैन्युफैक्चरिंग बढ़ रहा है, उनको लोगों को ये लोग चाहिए जो डिसिप्लिन्ड हों, ट्रेनेबल हों और जिनके साथ जिनके पास में उम्र हो। इनका सबसे बड़ा एसेट है इनकी उम्र, कि ये अभी भी यंग है। इस उम्र में कई लोग अभी भी अगर हम जाए पॉलिटेक्निक के अंदर में लोग भर्ती होने के लिए जाते हैं तो उनमें से कई लोग 22, 23 साल के होते हैं, 2 साल 3 साल का कोर्स करते हैं। उसके बाद वो अपने लिए एक मैन्युफैक्चरिंग जाए, कोई कंप्यूटर का कोर्स करते हैं, 2 साल का कंप्यूटर का कोर्स करें। इंफॉर्मेशन टेक्नोलॉजी के फील्ड में इतने वो हैं, तो इनके लिए स्थान ज़्यादा होंगे। इनका भविष्य टोटली सुरक्षित है और इनको किसी प्रकार की चिंता करने की बात नहीं है, क्योंकि इनके पास में 22 साल की उम्र है, इनके पास में 4 साल देश की सेवा करने का एक सर्टिफिकेट है, इनके पास में एजुकेशनल क्वालिफिकेशन की एक वो है, और उसके अलावा इनके पास में एक ऐसी धनराशि भी है जिससे इसको इन्वेस्ट कर सकते हैं। और अभी इनकी इनकम्बेंसीज नहीं है, अभी इनके परिवार नहीं है। ये ट्रेनिंग के लिए चाहे तो कोई मद्रास जाना चाहता है, कोई कश्मीर जाना चाहता है, कहीं भी जा सकता है। वो मोबाइल है। जब वो 34 साल की उम्र में आप उसको भेजते हैं, उसके साथ सबसे बड़ा अन्याय है, क्योंकि ना तो वो घर बैठ सकता है, ना लोग ऐसी जगह पे जा सकता, अपने क्षेत्र से बाहर भी नहीं जा सकता।
आई गेट दैट अबाउट कि जब वो बाहर निकलते हैं। नाउ द थिंग इज दैट आप खुद गांव से हैं सर, यू आर अ सन ऑफ an army person. You have worn the military uniform, the police uniform. You've been awarded the Kirti Chakra, military honor for a policeman. You understand that when you go back to the village, the respect that a uniform gets. Now, many in the villages are saying कि ये 4 साल के छोकरे बाहर निकल के आएंगे, they will not be given the same respect. That वर्दी will not have the same honor, the respect that it had, because it doesn't carry with it the weight of national service over decades.
मेरे ख्याल से ये भी पूरा भ्रम है। गांव के अंदर में अभी भी इनकी उतनी ही प्रतिष्ठा और इज्जत और सम्मान होगा, गांव में नहीं, गांव के बाहर भी। ये देश की एक बड़ी भारी निधि होंगी। ये इतने हज़ारों की संख्या में जो ये बच्चे होंगे, जब ये ओवर द ईयर्स समाज के भिन्न भिन्न भागों में जाएंगे, when they will go and man positions in different walks of life, they will bring with them the work culture, the ethos, the values which they have imbibed in army. Army has sent them in as a totally transformed persons. So they will be the great harbingers of the change वो परिवर्तन को एक नई दिशा देंगे। और ये जो लोगों को भ्रम है कि इनका सम्मान और इनका वो नहीं होगा, ये बिल्कुल गलत है। मेरे ख्याल से अग्निवीरों को उतना ही सम्मान होता है। आज भी कितने लोग अपनी कोशिश करते हैं पारिवारिक कारणों से सेना को छोड़ के कभी कभी आना पड़ता है। वो कुछ लोग हमेशा से पहले कलर सर्विस कितनी थी, 1962 तक तो 7 ईयर्स थी। उसके बाद में भी समय समय पर इसने ये कहा गया है कि इसको वो किया जाए। तो 7 ईयर्स की कलर सर्विस के बाद में जो आदमी जाता था उसको क्या सम्मान मिलता था, इसको अधिक सम्मान मिलेगा क्योंकि इसके पास में आगे का कैरियर भी है।
Sir, if this scheme was so overdue, so necessary, keeping in view that wars have changed, the nature of wars have changed, and the nature of the requirement of manpower has changed for India, अगर ये इतना overdue था तो इसके against इतने protest, इतने sudden protest क्यों हुए?
देखिए ऐसा है, इसमें दो तरह के प्रोटेस्ट या अपोजिशन है मैं कहूँगा। एक तो ये है जो कंसर्न है, वो देशभक्त भी हैं, उन्होंने देश की सेवा भी की है और अपने जीवन का बड़ा भाग जो है देश के लिए अपनी जानों की बाजी भी लगाई है। उनको फियर ऑफ अननोन है और जब भी कोई परिवर्तन आता है, एनी टाइम दैट ए चेंज कम्स, उसके साथ में जुड़ी हुई एंग्जाइटीज एंड फेयर्स आर ऑलवेज देयर। कुछ भय होते हैं, कुछ आकांक्षाएं होती हैं, कुछ अनागतवती चिंताएं होती हैं जो आदमी को घेरती है। इतना बड़ा परिवर्तन, इतना बड़ा चेंज हो जाएगा तो कहीं ये तो नहीं सब कुछ पलट जाएगा। तो ये हम इसको समझ सकते हैं। इसके लिए आपने देखा होगा, यदि आपने 15 तारीख जून के बाद में जैसे जैसे इन लोगों को अधिक सूचना और पूरी बात का पता चल रहा है और भी बातों का समय के साथ पता लगेगा, वैसे वैसे ये लोग इसको समझ रहे हैं कि ये तो हमारी बड़ी पुरानी आवश्यकता थी, इसमें हमारे वेटरन्स भी शामिल हैं और ये एक अच्छी चीज़ है। उनके कंसर्न हैं कि इनका क्या होगा। अब उनको पता लग रहा है कि इनके लिए भी एक भविष्य निश्चित करने की योजना है। उनको ये लग रहा है कि आर्मी के अंदर में जो एक्सपीरियंस लोग रहेंगे कि नहीं, अब उनको भी पता लग रहा है कि नहीं, आर्मी तो एक्सपीरियंस लोगों की, आर्मी डिमोबिलाइज हो रही है, ये लोग तो रहेंगे ही। और इसके बाद में जो आएंगे वो अग्निवीर के स्ट्रीम से आएंगे, वो एक दूसरे स्ट्रीम से आ रहे हैं, पर यही फिर आगे इनके 5 साल 6 साल 15 साल ये और सर्विस करेंगे। तो उनकी वो जो भय और आकांक्षाएं हैं उनमें धीरे धीरे कमी आ रही है। एक दूसरे वर्ग है, उसका ना राष्ट्र से कोई मतलब है, ना राष्ट्र की सुरक्षा से कोई मतलब है, ना वो राष्ट्र के प्रति इतने समर्पित हैं। उनके दे आर कन्फ्लिक्ट एंटरप्रेन्योर्स। व्हाट दे वांट इज दैट दे वांट ए कन्फ्लिक्ट इन द सोसाइटी। दे वुड लाइक टू क्रिएट एनीथिंग विच इज क्लोज टू द एनार्की। Now these are the persons who will go for stone throwing, demonstrations, burning the trains and others, not what is the cause. But wherever there is an opportunity, they think that they can emotionalize or mislead the people, or they can have this thing. जो अग्निवीर बनने वाला होगा वो ना किसी प्रलोभन में आता है, ना वो किसी से बहकाया जा सकता है, ना वो किसी के द्वारा दुष्प्रचार के लिए प्रेरित किया जा सकता है। ये जितने लोग हैं, मुझे नहीं लगता कि ये वो लोग हैं जो कि सेना के लिए और सेना में जाने के लिए बहुत इच्छुक है या जिनके पास में एक साइकिक मेंटल सेट है। वो अपने घर में बैठ के तैयारी कर रहे होंगे।
Didn't the security establishment anticipate कि ऐसे conflict entrepreneurs जो आप कह रहे हैं that they will make use of this scheme to mislead people and to cause street unrest?
Well, something was anticipated as well also, because we thought that, well, these people who have got a vested interest, they have got vested interest because some people are making money through the coaching centers. There are vested interest because they would like to discredit the government on any count. There are some vested interests who would like the youth to be provoked against the establishment and others. We had it, but then it's a democracy. We cannot take the action and we cannot do this thing. But once they take and transgress those red lines where the limits of their freedoms start undermining the country's national security or internal security or the law and order or the peace of the country, certainly the action is taken and has been taken.
So you think that, in your opinion, street protests are justified to a certain extent in a democracy? Do you agree with that?
Well, I think that the protests or the raising a voice, expressing your this thing is justified and is permitted in a democracy. But this vandalism, but this violence, it is not permitted and will not be tolerated at all.
So our security forces, I mean the state police, I mean out here, they were just not equipped to handle it. We saw for hours together coaches burning. hours together. The coaches were burning. There was no firefighting equipment in the railway stations. Railway police, हम सिर्फ देखते हैं marching, but वहाँ पे कोई railway police नहीं थी. 4-5 घंटे trains were burning. We've seen protests with regard to, the earlier protests also. 1 week they've been going on with regard to prophet remarks or with regard to anything. Policemen crying, sir, forces bhej dijiye. The impression one gets is that these reforms which you are bringing about in the Fauj, it's probably more needed for civilians.